Please join me in honoring this great country. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, can I get a roll call, Madam Clerk?
Yes, Mr. Alvizar,
Here.
Mr. Esquaga,
Present.
Chair Bybee,
Here.
Mr. East,
Here.
Commissioner Hill,
Here.
Mr. J, Mr. Long,
Here.
Mr. Murdock,
Present.
Mayor Sheedy.
Here. Thank you. Before we get started, I want to just take a moment this morning, give you a moment of silence to recognize an incredible man that we lost yesterday. U.S. District Court Larry Hicks was hit by a car yesterday afternoon. Probably a lot of you have heard that. I just wanted to honor his memory, his contribution to our community. Our thoughts are with his family, with his community, with the fellow people in the judicial system that worked with him, and just community members. It's a huge loss for our community. So just wanted to take a moment of silence to recognize that and send our condolences. Thank you. Let's move on to item D, comments from the floor by the public. Madam Clerk, do we have public comment?
None at this time.
Okay, we'll go ahead and close item D. Move on to item C, consent agenda. Consent agenda, looking for motion to approve.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda items C1 and C2.
Okay, I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I second it.
I have a second by member Long. Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, moving right on to item D. Presentation from Travel Nevada. We're fortunate this morning. We have Lieutenant Governor Stavros Anthony and Travel Nevada CEO Rafael Villanueva to present a high-level Travel Nevada update regarding visitation, programming, and sales and marketing activities. And what I would like to do this morning, starting with this presentation, is ask board members to write down questions and comments that you have. And I'm going to let each presenter go through their full presentation, and then we'll have all the time that we need for questions, comments, thoughts at the end of that presentation. So welcome, Lieutenant Governor. So glad to see you here.
Thank you. Chair Bybee, members of the board, good morning. Great to be here. Again, my name is Stavros Anthony. I'm honored to be Nevada's Lieutenant Governor. I want to thank Chair Bybee for allowing me to attend your meeting this morning and do this presentation. I just want to do some introductory remarks, and then I'm going to turn it over to Rafael Villanueva to actually go through the Travel Nevada presentation. So a year and a half ago, when I was elected Nevada's Lieutenant Governor, I finally was able to find out what exactly I do as Lieutenant Governor and all the different boards and commissions I'm on. And really the most important one is I'm the chair of the Nevada Tourism Commission. Mr. Murdock is the vice chair. We have some great commissioners that sit on that commission, and we basically oversee the Nevada Department of Tourism and Cultural Affairs. So I decided early on that I was going to take this position very seriously. And the last year and a half, I've been traveling all over the state of Nevada for really a couple of reasons. Number one, to really highlight the great tourist destinations we have all over the state, not just Las Vegas, not just Reno, Tahoe, and Sparks, but all over the state of Nevada. We have some great places to visit. And doing that, we have basically 10 road trips, and Rafael's going to go through those. So I think I've done about half of them all over the state. I'm doing another one next week along I-80, Winnemucca, Lovelock, Battle Mountain, and then traveling north of 80. I haven't been up there yet, so I'm looking forward to seeing that. And then I think in another couple months, I'm doing the loneliest road? Yeah, loneliest road. So hopefully, there's another one of our commissioners right here, Elliot, I saw you. So I'm trying to get all 10 done in the next, at least the next 3 years. Part of that is I've been traveling all over the country to talk about the great tourist destinations all over the state of Nevada, and I've been to several countries talking about the great tourist destinations here in Nevada. And then the second part of that is when I highlight these destinations, I'm really focused on meeting with our tourism partners all over the state to make sure that they know that the state of Nevada supports them in any way we can, whether it's the Tourism Commission, the Nevada State Department of Tourism and Cultural Affairs. I want them to know that the state is a partner with them, that we're just not out here doing our own thing, that we want to work together to promote the tourism industry that is a big part of our economy, and to let them know that the state stands with them in any way we can help them. And that's really why I'm here today, is to let you know. Sometimes we forget that the state has a Department of Tourism and Cultural Affairs, and we want you to know that we want to work with you. So with that, Raphael is going to get into more deeply on the Travel Nevada and what exactly we can do for you. And then the last thing I want to mention to you is I'm a member of the National Lieutenant Governors Association, and we meet on a regular basis all over the country. And we have one annual event conference, and then we have some smaller conferences, but our annual event, our annual conference for 2025 is going to be up in Lake Tahoe. I was able to, well, I didn't really need to convince anybody to go to Lake Tahoe. Once I mentioned Lake Tahoe, everybody said yes. So I will be reaching out to you for your support and your help in making sure that we have a great conference to highlight Reno, Lake Tahoe to lieutenant governors from all over the country, and as well as their corporate sponsors. So with that, I want to turn it over to our CEO of Travel Nevada, Raphael Villanueva. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Chairman Bybee, board members, Commissioner Larragueta, Commissioner Murdoch. It's a pleasure to be here. As Lieutenant Governor mentioned, he has been traveling across the entire state. It's not just to learn about the products that we have in Nevada, but be our voice on what the value of tourism has. It's amazing to know, and you may see this or feel it, but besides Reno and Southern Nevada, a lot of people love tourism, but they don't want tourists. And we need to find a way to show them the value of it. And it's not going to, as we promote the area, it's not going to turn on a faucet and they're going to be inundated and flooded. But there is value. And as you know, tourism provides jobs. Tourism supports the state and all the programs that we do. So the fact that he's able to visit not only our road trips and programs we've already established and we've been promoting for several years, but also talking about why it's important to the state. The fact that this lieutenant governor has traveled probably more than many of our lieutenant governors have traveled combined already, shows the importance that tourism has. And sometimes it's an area that we tend to take for granted. I wanted to touch on a little bit of who we are. You hear Travel Nevada, you hear the Department of Tourism and Cultural Affairs, and you hear of the Nevada Commission of Tourism. And we are not separate, but we all work together. The Department of Tourism and Cultural Affairs consists of Travel Nevada, which we also manage, run, write, and produce the Nevada magazine. All the museums, state museums of the state, cultural affairs, and for the time being, probably through July, the Indian Commission. That is led by Brenda Scolari. And we have now, with my position, has been able to kind of separate and allow me to take over the entire Travel Nevada team. This is a little bit of the hierarchy. We put them in really small letters so you couldn't read them. But just to give you the idea of the size of what DTCA is and each one of our segments. Then there's the Nevada Commission on Tourism. Lieutenant Governor is our chairman. We have several members of our commission here, but it consists of 2 ex officio voting positions, the RSCVA and Reno Tahoe CVA, as well as at least one member with a population of 700,000, at least one member of between 100,000 to 700,000 population, and at least two members from our rural markets. Matter of fact, here's the current commission that we have. We have, of course, Commissioner Larragueta and Commissioner Murdoch that are massive, major advocates for Northern Nevada on our commission. And then we have another group that represents our rural areas. We meet quarterly. It's chaired by a lieutenant governor, and this is where the opportunity when we have the chance, just like you guys do here, to talk about our marketing plans and our programs. We mainly focus on the marketing side of promoting Nevada. And then Travel Nevada, the department I oversee, we have several segments. We have our marketing, our industry development, our public relations and community, and we have Nevada Magazine. Last legislative session, we were able to move the entire magazine that was an independent group, but by statute had to be produced over to Travel Nevada. The entire staff, the writers, the photographers are now part of Travel Nevada. That allows us to not just open and run the magazine and run it more efficiently, but to create what we call a content studio. That we can take a lot of the material that we produce in our magazine, long form, and be able to use it short form for a lot of our social media, saving a substantial amount of money. We don't have to have as many subcontractors or agencies to be able to pull and do this and take full advantage of the talent that we have in Nevada Magazine. I want to touch a little bit on the statewide numbers. And these are numbers based on 2023. We can share later on, and we're going to be sharing it with Mike and his team, our numbers for the first quarter of 24, plus some other visitor sentiment. But we wanted to stick with top line. So our room tax collection 2023 was very successful. Matter of fact, in every one of our segments, $32 million collected in room tax collection statewide, 52 million visitors, 55.4 million room nights, and our occupancy rate at 78.2. Substantial as occupancy and ADR, extremely important. Talking about ADR, we had an increase of almost $17 a night on average room night statewide. Convention attendance statewide was an increase. Airport volume, of course, increased as well. But this is the area that's most important and where we try to have the message. When the lieutenant governor is talking to other parts of the state, we remind them that tourism in the state of Nevada is a $75 billion industry. It provides over $5.5 billion in state and local taxes and represents 20% of our direct jobs in the state of Nevada. But the most important number, and the number I love to talk about, is the $4,800 that we do not have to pay as individuals in taxes in the state because of the value of tourism has. And it's a tendency, it's something we forget. There's another stat here that we don't have that we really talk about, and we'll share it later. It is how tourism affects sales tax. We really focus on the value of the room tax that we collect, because that's the dollars we're able to use to market the area. But when you look at visitation next to the sales tax growth, you can see it mirrors each other. And that's an area, though we would love to have a piece of that to help market the state and probably help market Reno and the rest of our counties. But this is very important to us. And then the rural. We spend a lot of time focusing on the areas, on the rurals. And the reason is they don't have an RSCVA. They don't have an LVCVA to do the work for them. They may have some small DMOs in that area, but they're one or two people. So we need to be able to focus on those. And we focus on them not just by marketing the area. We had record room tax collection. We have record room nights occupied. We have record room nights volume. But we're helping them in product. One thing Travel Nevada does, and very proud of doing, is a grant program. Several grant programs. At our commission meeting next week, we'll be presenting those who are receiving grants, our rural marketing grants. And the idea of the rural marketing grants are not just to just hand out money, but it's to find product that's marketing and driving visitation to those areas, or developing product that enhances the visitor's experience while they're there. And those are, and the majority of the money will be going to the rural parts of the state. Then we also have what we call our 3D programs, our Destination Development Demonstration Grants. They're substantial. People have to apply for the grant. It starts with a 10-year strategic plan. We fund consultants for them to work with the community and with the steering committee to be able to fund these programs. We have 3 already in process, one in Lincoln County, one in White Pines, and one in somewhere else. Black Rock. And we're finalizing 2, which will be a cultural corridor, which will tie in the art segment of Carson City, Carson Valley, and Virginia City. And then we're working with Boulder City on another project. But that is, we need to find products. We need to help them get to that part where they can get products that fit the community, that is wanted by the community, and that is supported by the community. And once that 10-year plan is done, it's set up in 3 segments, 1 to 3 years, 3 to 5 years, 5 to 10 years. And we will then fund programs in that 1 to 3 years to get them going. It started out with some federal dollars that we were fortunate with, and plus followed up with our state dollars that we have for grants. And talking about federal dollars, one project we're really excited about is our adventure centers. We were able to receive about $9 million in grants to build 2 adventure centers. Very unique. There's no other state in the country that's doing a program like this. We're going to put them in Boulder City and in Carson City. They're going to be hubs for outdoor rec. There'll be hubs for tour companies and outfitters that they can not only sell and promote, but to use as a meeting place. But it's going to help us as well, because we're going to use it on the education side, on the stewardship of our lands. Because it's great to have a lot of people, but we want to make sure we take care of that. And that's a big part of the community. These will be built, the one in Carson City will be built in the same grounds where our museum, our rail museum is located. And then in Boulder City, it'll be located where the Boulder City Chamber of Commerce, both on state lands. So this is a federal, state, and a community project. Something we're really excited about. We hope to break ground the first quarter of 2025 and be completed by the end of 2025 or the first quarter of 2026. One thing we're learning is dealing with federal dollars and state processes, building things are not as quickly as we'd like. But we think these are going to be very unique. These are going to be areas that we can market and promote that can help drive positions. And one thing is helping in the Carson City area. Carson City has not had tour companies that can develop programs and tours. So we're able to work with companies in Reno and in Lake Tahoe to develop product and now be housed as well in Carson City. We're really excited about this. This is something that you'll see us doing. If we can't market, we don't have product to market and to get people to stay, they're not going to come. And we need to work with that. We're very fortunate to be able to work with RSCVA in many capacities. Besides Commissioner Larragueta being on our commission, our team worked with Art Jimenez. They just finished doing a sales mission in Southern California, working with not only Reno, but Southern Nevada and Nevada to talk about the value of the entire state. We'll do this several times a year. We'll look at projects. If you know Art Jimenez, he always has a lot of ideas that he's going to help and how we can spend our money, and we'll try to find the best ways to do that. But on that note, I want to thank the chair, the board, and Mike for the invitation, and available for any questions you
Okay. Questions, comments? Mr. Murdock?
Thanks, Madam Chair. You know, I gotta tell you, when I met Stavros, it's very interesting to sit on that board, as Mike will know, and Raphael was the board member at the time, and then you became involved in the business. So it's been quite a journey to learn for me. But I gotta tell you, the most important thing, and I think it's awesome that what the Lieutenant Governor has done and the staff, by going and seeing every one of the tourism jurisdictions all over the state, not just Reno and Vegas, but you go out to Ely, you go out to Smith, you go everywhere. You go anywhere that's Nevada. And I think that is admirable. And I love it that the paper wrote up an article that they're spending money on tourism and it more than they've ever spent in the history of the state. Well, he's the first lieutenant governor that's gone to every place in the state. So thank you very much. That's all I'm going to say.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments?
Well,
Commissioner Hill?
since we have the lieutenant governor here, I was hoping we could take a picture, take a quick break to take a picture with the lieutenant governor.
Sure, if you do that, yeah. Good idea.
I will-
Any other questions,
I will do
Mr.
that.
Squaga?
Again, not even a question, but just really appreciate the presentation, but also the putting tours in front. So we take it for granted, right? We're all around it. We're in it day in and day out, but, and I love seeing the stats. I know Lieutenant Governor also made it out to Wendover to the Petronil property, so you really are getting out there. But really appreciate it. And again, I said, I'll use Wendover as an example, but Salt Lake is a major market of ours. And to see what that brings in to the state, we're all interconnected. So these efforts are great and really appreciate all you're doing. So thank you.
Any other board members? I want to thank you for being here. And what I especially appreciate is going to the rurals. My husband's from Ely, so my heart is connected to rural Nevada. But I think really as we've looked at post-pandemic and we've looked at people looking for adventures, they're not traveling for just one purpose. They're combining business and recreation, but they're looking for experiences. And so especially the younger generation is looking for it, and Nevada just has that. So many, of our rural communities that if you haven't been there, you haven't driven that loneliest road, which I've done a million times. Kind of the beauty of the state and the adventures that we have to offer, I think is huge. We're able to market that because it's what people are looking for, especially if they're coming from densely populated, New York City, Chicago, places where you're not outdoors so much and able to do things like that. So I appreciate your focus on the rurals and on the state as a whole. Your work is much appreciated. Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, let's take a momentary break and get a picture.
Thank you.
Thank you, Raphael. Probably work here.
Sure. Salmon. That's usually mine, I have that.
You guys can kind of shift off the wall. Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. You guys.
You want a space thing?
Basically, yeah, like off, because I can't really get into there. That was great work. All right, big smiles. 3, 2, 1. Got it.
Let's see. Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
On the road, right? Yeah.
I know. Yeah. It is very.
Okay. Call back to order. Our board meeting, moving on to item D2, presentation by Future Partners. Aaron Francis Cummings, President and CEO of Future Partners, is going to provide us with results of the 2023 Visitor Profile Research Study, which tracks the sentiment about visitor experience in an effort to better understand the primary travel motivators and activities visitors associate with Reno Tahoe. And Aaron, welcome back. We've had you before. Your information is always just fascinating. And what I'd like to do again with this, each agenda item, we're going to let Erin make her full presentation. Please write down questions and comments. And then at the end of the presentation, we'll open the floor to whatever you guys have questions on or want to make comments on. Erin, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you all. It's such a great pleasure to be here with you again to present findings from a holistic destination research program that our company, Future Partners, is really honored to conduct with the RSCVA on behalf of the Reno Tahoe tourism community. It looks like a couple of my slides got cut out of here. That's okay. They were just, this one was just a vanity slide about our company. But we are a 21-year-old creative insights firm shaping winning strategies for travel, tourism, and hospitality leaders that capture hearts, minds, and market share. Our purpose as a company is to open opportunity for our clients powered by insight and bring the future of travel within reach. So helping you stay ahead of the curve and push what's possible for your destination. I'm going to share some recent macro trends that provide really important context, I believe, for you to consider as we review the findings from the research program today. I will cover how the research was designed and the methodologies that we used. And then I'll dive into a profile of the Reno Tahoe visitor in 2023. And from there, I'll move into what we know about the health of the Reno Tahoe tourism brand, and finally Washoe County resident sentiment towards tourism. And then I'll end with 6 key takeaways from this body of research. So some of the greater trends that we are seeing that impact the travel outlook and traveler behaviors. And again, these are for you to keep in mind as you consider the upcoming visitor and brand research that I'll be presenting and their implications. So these greater trends come from our State of the American Traveler study, in which we surveyed 4,000 American travelers each month to track and surface traveler behaviors and opinions. First, Americans' excitement for travel remains at near record levels. This chart is showing you the strength of that excitement over the last 3 years. And given its pace, we should continue to see really strong aspiration and demand for travel over the next several months. The dark blue line in this chart is showing the percent of American travelers with at least one leisure trip planned from 2021 to present. And that light blue line is showing the average number of leisure trips they have planned. Right now, the travel outlook is healthy. We have 90% of American travelers that have at least one leisure trip planned right now. The typical traveler has 3.5 leisure trips already planned in the months ahead. These are the actual months Americans are reporting having existing trip plans in. So summer looks particularly strong, with 37% of American travelers saying they already have a trip in July planned, and that's actually up from what we saw in 2023. And 2023 was a pretty great year for travel. Also for Reno Tahoe, adjacent destinations, Las Vegas, California, these remain amongst the most aspirational domestic travel destination. So coupled with the high travel demand that we're seeing, I think this represents some really great opportunity for you all. But I do want you to know that high costs are really weighing heavily on travelers' minds. When we ask them what's keeping them from traveling as much as they had intended, the high cost of travel, travel being too expensive, has been increasing as a deterrent over the last 4 months. And while some traveler segments might be less price sensitive than others, the perception of travel being expensive is still having an impact across many behaviors and sentiments. So we looked into potential ways American travelers may adjust or make substitutions in their behaviors because of this. And one of the concepts that we tested is dupes and how well Americans felt dupes would do this year in attracting travelers. So dupes is a slang word for destinations that are affordable alternatives to historically more expensive places. So think of Lyon as a substitution or a dupe for Paris, or Bologna as a dupe for Venice. So do Americans actually predict that visiting dupes will grow in popularity this year? Yes, 59.3% predict a rise in visiting dupes, and just 6.9% say no. So these high travel prices are playing a role in how Americans are making their destination decisions, and possibly a shift towards this dupe concept. And so I wanted you to think of maybe a dupe positioning strategy might potentially work in growing tourism here. And I want you to know also that the desire for value we are seeing does transcend income strata. So the percent predicting the shift to dupes is actually highest amongst our most affluent households, which are on the left side there. Another concept we tested to look into the impact of cost is that undiscovered or off the beaten path travel destinations will grow in popularity due to crowding and the high cost of popular destinations. And 2/3 of American travelers predicted that, yes, just 6.7% thought that would be unlikely. So will leaning into certain aspects of what you have here make travelers feel that sense of undiscovered and thereby less crowded and less expensive. And one final trend I wanted you to think about, you've probably seen stories about the challenges in alcohol sales right now. We tested the concept of dry tripping, so these are getaways with no alcohol, and whether those would be more popular. And actually 39.8% of American travelers predicted that dry tripping would gain popularity this year. 22.2% said it won't. So while you may need to have or at least articulate products for this, so we're curious. If this alarms you, I want you not to worry. Americans are still letting loose and having fun. There's plenty of our other research that shows that they are very interested in still imbibing when they travel. Okay, so I'll jump into the specific findings on Reno Tahoe right now, the visitor, the resident, and the brand. Here's an overview of this holistic research program. So we were aiming to really deeply understand visitor experiences here and characterize these visitors. We're looking to measure brand health, brand sentiment, and the effectiveness of your advertising program. Measuring intention to visit and identifying any deterrence there amongst your target audiences and potential visitor segments, and then assess how your local residents feel about tourism and its impact on their own quality of life. So we work very closely with the RSCVA. We developed online surveys that we sent out to national representative panel of traveling adults age 21 or older. And for the visitor profile, they were screened for recent visitation to the area. And for our resident research, obviously that had to be a resident of the county. And then for our brand health and ad effectiveness research, they were screened for having traveler characteristics that fit the target personas that you're targeting with those advertising. You see the final sample sizes that we collected for each of those surveys here at the bottom of the screen. Okay, so who visited Reno Tahoe in the last year? What did they do on their trip? And what did they think of their experience? So I'll start with visitors' demographic and psychographic characteristics. From a demographic lens, visitors to Reno Tahoe in 2023, they were likely to be millennial generation, identify as women, BIPOC, and have young children in their household. Relative to what we were seeing the year prior. 56% of visitors are women. In terms of age, continuing an 8-year decrease, the average visitor age is 45 years old. A third are in the millennial generation, 15% Gen Z. I think that's a great finding for you all. Visitors tend to be married or partnered. 60% are, we do have a quarter who are single. In terms of their racial identity, the share of visitors who identify as BIPOC that did increase from 14% in 2022 to 27% in 2023. And 40% of your visitors said that they had children in their household, and that was a 16 point increase that we saw over 2022. When asked to describe the attitudes that characterize them as travelers, spending time with family, making memories, enjoying trying new things, traveling to open their minds to new cultures and experiences, as well as being outside to reconnect with nature and seeking exciting and stimulating experiences. These are their strongest travel motivators. They were cited by at least 3/4 of your visitors in the last year, and really revealing the importance of having family activities here, offering up new experiences and nature and shaping the travel decisions of your key customers. As far as the attributes of a destination that your visitors say they prioritize when they are making the decision as to where to vacation, they're most commonly and strongly seeking good value for their money at 83%. And then after good value for the money, the top destination attribute priorities are water access and an inclusive, welcoming atmosphere. Those are each at 71% of your visitors. Other key attributes that they're prioritizing include being easily accessible, family-friendly activities, and unique local cuisine. And that cited is important by at least 2/3 of your visitors. These insights into their destination decision-making overall, again, highlight the importance of your affordability, accessibility, and inclusivity in continuing to attract these visitors to Reno. All right, let's now move into their trip details. In terms of length of stay, visitors book longer hotel and casino stays. We saw in 2023, average overall stay of 2.6 nights across all visitors. The chart on the left shows a breakdown of these visitors according to the number of nights they stayed in the area. And on the table on the right, we have the change from 2022. In 23, 1 in 3 visitors stayed in Reno Tahoe for 4 or more nights. The length of stay in hotels and inns increased from 2.8 to 3.5 nights. Vacation rental visitors, we also saw an increase in their length of stay from 3.5 to 4.3 nights. And then their visitor party, their travel party composition. We also did see some shifts from 22, a notable increase in family visitors. So that chart on the left shows the travel party composition. Most commonly, visitors are with their spouse or significant other at 71%. But 1/3 of travel parties had visitors' own children under the age of 18. That was a 21-point increase that we saw. And that's driven primarily by those millennial age visitors that I showed you in the demographics earlier. They're the likeliest to be traveling with young children. But 4 in 10 of your Gen X visitors also brought along their own children. And your visitors certainly generated economic impacts in 2023. The typical visitor represented an average of $572 in spending per day, most largely on their restaurants and accommodations. So the table there on the left shows spending by category. We did see an increase in gaming spend. It was the 3rd highest category. We also saw a relative increase in driving to the destination in 2023. So that shifted some spending overall in gas, and then brought the proportion of spend for things like rental car and ground transportation down. Of course, not all visitors are alike, and they're not all spending alike. So if we break this out by your various visitor segments, whether by trip purpose, place of stay, or their traveler persona, it's very clear that some visitor segments spend more than others, which is always helpful to see when you're preparing your marketing strategy. So this is the total trip spend amongst the different segments. So, you see the percentages in each column representing the proportion that belong to that segment. And the turquoise numbers show the typical length of stay for that segment. So in this 3rd column from the right, that ambitious adventurer persona, that makes up about 1 in 5 of your visitors in 2023. They had the highest daily spend of $963, and they stayed an average of 4 nights. Compare that to the overall average of 2.6 nights. So what they represented to the destination was significantly higher than average given their spending and their length of stay. And then we have our cultured creatives. That was 30% of visitors, and they spent about $200 more per day than average, and they stayed a bit longer as well. And then your parties with children in them, Obviously makes sense to have more people. They did stay longer though, as well as spend more. Okay, so now let's move into the visitor experience, starting with the activities that your visitors participated in during their trip. And we noted the percent change from 2022 there for you. So in 2023, the most popular activities continued to be gaming, visiting Lake Tahoe, and shopping, each done by about half of visitors. And other common activities include nightlife and hiking by about a third of visitors. But note that important shares of visitors also viewed your public art, visited your microbreweries, and went to spas. So we not only wanted to track which activities visitors engaged in during their trip, but we wanted to go deeper into which of those activities were actually motivational to make the ultimate decision for them to have come here. So this chart shows the percent of visitors who indicated an activity was the primary motivation for their decision to come to Reno Tahoe for their trip. And again, we have the change from 22 displayed for you. So the proportion of visitors who are primarily motivated by different activities that increased across the board. And that finding to us shows a growing diversity in what's compelling travelers to come and choose Reno Tahoe. The largest increase we saw was for gaming in terms of what was motivating. Also, of course, we have Lake Tahoe there as well. Those who were primarily motivated by gaming were also more likely than others to have visited a spa and to have gone to a bar or nightclub. Those whose primary trip motivation was visiting Lake Tahoe, they were significantly more likely to do outdoor activities, but they were also more likely to visit a spa than the typical visitor. And finally, those who came to the area to shop were more likely to also engage in a variety of other activities, including gaming, spas, nightclubs, and attending concerts, festivals, and live sporting events. So might suggest that shoppers not only bring initial commercial retail activity, but also tend to participate in the events. Okay, so after the activities, how do your visitors feel about the area? So it's clear that Reno Tahoe did not disappoint. So using a scale from 1 to 10, visitors were asked to rate their satisfaction with their overall trip, as well as different aspects of the trip, including accommodations, service, activities, interactions with locals, and value for the money. So this chart is showing the percentage of visitors who rated the trip and its different aspects as an 8 or above on that scale. 79% gave their overall trip a satisfaction score of 8 or above. But we have lower proportions rating different aspects highly. In terms of the target personas represented in your visitor set, the cultured creative, the mindful mom, and the ambitious adventurer, they all had higher levels of satisfaction across the board. It's remarkable, 95% of your visitors who are ambitious adventurers were highly satisfied with the visitor experience that they had here. And getting into further detail, while still achieving relatively high scores, the least highly rated aspect of the trip across the board was value for the money. And that's that darkest purple bar there. So your visitors tend to be highly satisfied with their trip. But we also wanted to know, did they have the experience that we all wanted them to have? Did they walk away feeling the way you wanted them to feel about the area? So we tested 5 positioning descriptors of Reno Tahoe and asked visitors how much they agreed each described the destination. So that Reno Tahoe is a vibrant and fun atmosphere yields the greatest agreement across your visitors at 74%. Additionally, 68% of your visitors believe Reno Tahoe is a place where you can live life to the fullest, and 65% feel it has a spirit of independence. However, the descriptors celebrates individuality and the unconventional, and is a fusion of sophistication and edginess. Those resonate less, with 52% and 46% of your visitors agreeing respectively. And that suggests to us that you're really delivering on conveying fun, vitality, and independent spirit. But there is an opportunity in the visitor experience to help them understand and experience some of your other attributes, like your sophistication, your edginess, and some of your unconventional elements. A closer look at visitor perceptions of your assets can help us understand their experience. We asked visitors to rate how much they agreed that Reno Tahoe delivers on different destination attributes. So what you're seeing are the destination attributes with the largest increase in visitor ratings year over year. The 2023 is in the darker blue bar. The highest rated attribute of Reno Tahoe by its visitors is also the attribute showing the largest increase in positive perception, and that's family-friendly activities at 76%, so a 14-point increase. And about 2/3 of visitors agree that Reno Tahoe delivers good value for the money, and that's a 6-point increase. So not only are these areas where the perceptions improve, they're also important areas for how people are making their decisions. Okay, so the strength of some attributes did wane somewhat, but do know that they're still viewed largely positively. So this slide is showing you where you did have some decreases. There were only 3 attributes where there was a decrease by more than 5 points. For water access in particular, because that is so important to your visitors, it was a 6-point decrease, but it's still at 69% of visitors, so a majority are still rating it very, very highly. But how might where visitors go in Reno Tahoe impact the perceptions of the destination? We analyzed visitors who went to the various areas of the region and then looked at how they rated the destination's attributes, and that's shown in this table here. And the green numbers designate where there is a significantly higher percentage of rating that attribute highly compared to all visitors. So water access, that's seen more favorably by those who actually visited Incline Village, Sand Harbor, the Riverwalk District, and Tahoe Meadows. And in general, those who visit the River District and Tahoe Meadows and Mount Rose had significantly higher positive perceptions of Reno Tahoe in nearly all the attributes. So visiting those 2 areas is also positively associated with delivering on these attributes. So we're seeing that the positive experience for visitors is very much driven by where they are able to go in the destination. And then delivering on these attributes, as you know, is crucial because they contribute to the overall reputation and attractiveness of the destination and influencing future visitation. So on that note, that's your visitors. Let's now look at the findings of your brand health and your advertising effectiveness. So these findings that I'll share with you now address the tracking of and the outlook for Reno Tahoe's performance going forward. This is based on surveys of Reno Tahoe's target traveler audiences. So the travel profiles that you are aspiring to get to come and take trips here and maximize their in-market spending. So this set of research is based on both recent and potential visitors to the destination. So I'm going to start with the overview of the brand health tracking, looking at the basic metric of interest in visiting Reno Tahoe and intent to visit in the near term. So you see on this chart, there is desire to visit Reno Tahoe. 4 in 10 target travelers express interest in visiting within the next 2 years. But when we look at actual trip plans in the following 12 months, that proportion gets cut about in half. So only 21% of target travelers indicate that they have plans to visit within the next 12 months. But as a testament to the high satisfaction with the visitor experience here, plans to visit Reno Tahoe in the next 12 months, those are really driven by past visitation. So those in the target traveler segments that have actually recently visited Reno Tahoe are overwhelmingly saying they intend another near-term visit at a rate of 82% compared to only 21% of lapsed visitors and less than 10% of those who've never visited. And when we look at your target persona segment, again, that's the cultural creatives, the mindful moms, and the ambitious adventurers, it's evident that these are indeed great targets as they express significantly higher than average intent to visit in the near term. Over a quarter of mindful moms plan to visit, a third of cultured creatives, and 43% of ambitious adventurers. So these findings really highlight the promising opportunity you have to capitalize on this interest and convert these travelers to visitors. So thinking about your goal to become the preferred outdoor gaming and events destination, we wanted to closely examine where your brand stands with that goal. So these tables are showing you the most positively rated attributes of Reno Tahoe amongst your target traveler segments who actually prioritize those three things: outdoor recreation, gaming, and events, prioritize them in their destination decision. What we found was that Reno Tahoe excels in delivering on outdoor recreation and gaming to those who care most about those things. But events are still resonating less, so the opportunity there. So if you look at the leftmost table, for those who prioritize outdoor recreation, their top rated Reno Tahoe attribute is also outdoor recreation. In the second table, we see similar thing amongst those who prioritize gaming. 8 and 10 of them say that Reno Tahoe delivers on gaming. But for the third table, those who really prioritize events and festivals in their destination decision making, so only 64% of them are saying Reno Tahoe delivers on that. So it falls outside their top 10 rated attributes for Reno Tahoe. And another goal is for you to establish yourself as the urban base camp. So both outdoor adventure and evening and nighttime excitement. And the research shows that there's opportunity for further growth in creating that perception amongst your target audience. So this chart shows the percentage of different traveler segments agreeing that Reno Tahoe delivers on the attributes of nightlife scene, fine dining, live music, and breweries and craft beer. These are attributes often associated with evening recreation, the après. The purpose of this analysis was to examine the overlap between positive perceptions of outdoor and après aspects of your brand, measuring success in achieving both strong outdoor and strong nightlife offerings. So that dark blue column shows the perceptions of the target audience overall. And you can see that 53% of them agree that Reno Tahoe delivers on a nightlife scene. 53% feel that you're delivering on fine dining, 47% on live music, and 48% on brewery or craft beer scene. Those other columns show the perception of target travelers who viewed Reno Tahoe favorably on other attributes. So that medium blue column group, among all people who have positive perceptions of outdoor recreation offerings, 60% also think Reno Tahoe has a good nightlife. 61% agree it delivers on fine dining and 55% on live music. That rightmost dark purple column represents those who appreciate Reno Tahoe in terms of other attributes. So across the board, they tend to appreciate its evening offerings. But at the outdoor assets at a lower rate. So there is potential for travelers to see Reno Tahoe as an urban base camp, delivering on outdoor and après offerings simultaneously, but there's still work to do on the perception there. We also asked target travelers to rate Reno Tahoe on the different destination attributes live in a vacuum. And what we found is that you are a silver medalist in your core strengths. So this table shows the percentage of the target audience that selected each of these, your destination and your competitors, as most closely reflecting the attribute that we were testing. So there's 10 here that are most frequently associated with Reno Tahoe itself. And the turquoise boxes indicate the destination that came out on top for each attribute. And Reno Tahoe did not rank as number 1 for any of the attributes, including some of its core strengths. But it does come in second for a few, including outdoor recreation and gaming. So I think from this, you can see that you are seen as one of the premier destinations delivering on outdoor rec and gaming in your competitive set. But you are coming in as the silver medalist behind some of your competitors for some of the various attributes that you are attempting to own. We also, getting out of the brand and now into the marketing performance, this research also measured advertising effectiveness. And we found that the ads do leave an impression. And of course, there's always room for even greater reach. So we asked our survey respondents to indicate whether they recall seeing any ads for Reno Tahoe and its key competitors. And this is unaided, so we didn't show them any ads, we just asked if they recalled. And 15% of the target audience recalled having seen ads, and that's higher than Salt Lake City and Phoenix. But it is under Las Vegas, San Diego, in LA, but I look at this as a huge win for you all. I don't know how familiar you are with the advertising budgets for the DMOs in those destinations. But they are significant. The markets that you were in are highly saturated. So to get a 15% ad recall is quite a high performance. I think you should be especially proud of how you performed against Phoenix, because I know they have a huge ad budget and they are in the same markets as you all. Okay, so looking at where to continue to reach these travelers, we see the promise, of course, of social media amongst your target audience. The most common daily media consumption habit is using social media, followed by watching streaming video content and viewing online content. This is so funny to me because if you look, I mean, think about 20 years ago, none of these things were things that we tested, and now they're like the frequent daily habit of everyone. Over 50% of your target travelers saying they're doing this daily. In terms of overall travel inspiration, online searches dominate, followed by, of course, word of mouth, and then social media tied with travel review sites. And doing a deeper dive into social media, we see Facebook, YouTube, Instagram used by over 7 in 10 target travelers. So social media activity is not necessarily traditional paid advertising. It's an owned channel, so run by the RSCVA. And it's one of the 3 elements that we call the integrated marketing campaign. In this analysis, the other 2 elements are your earned media, so the articles and blogs that are written about you by third parties, and then the paid advertisement piece. So we, in the rest of this assessment, we do look into the effectiveness of that integrated marketing approach. And we found that the reach of your integrated marketing campaign does exceed that of paid advertising alone. So you're seeing the percent of each group who indicated having seen paid ads in the last 6 months. So 1 in 5 travelers have seen your paid media, an additional 17% have encountered your owned and earned media. Paid media remains effective at reaching key segments, 45% of your ambitious adventurers and 32% of your cultured creatives. But having that integrated marketing campaign really strengthens engagement across the board. So that well-rounded marketing strategy combined with your paid and owned and earned efforts is really crucial to maximizing visibility amongst your target audience. Looking deeper at your owned media channels, including the website and social media, those are also showing to be effective. We found that 1 in 5 of the target audience has been to the Reno Tahoe website in the last year. That's makes it the most popular of the owned channels. The website and other owned channels are accessed even more by your target set of segments compared to other travelers, most notably your ambitious adventurers. Over half of that group have been to the site, they said, and 4 in 10 of them have looked at the official Facebook and Instagram accounts. Okay, so what impact is this all having? Reno Tahoe's integrated marketing campaign approach appears to help associate in travelers' minds a broader, more positive perception of the attributes of your destination. So those who have seen in your integrated marketing content, that's those light blue dots that you're seeing on here, they report significantly more positive views of Reno Tahoe across a whole variety of diverse attributes of your destination. Most notable are in those non-traditional strengths, including value for money, breweries and craft beer, and live music and family-friendly activities. So those exposed to your integrated marketing campaign are far more likely to view your destination positively for those attributes and those who were not exposed to any of your integrated marketing campaign. All right. Finally, my time with you today, let's look at insights into Washoe County resident sentiment towards tourism. So first, you might be asking yourself, well, maybe you're not, you all probably are not, but a lot of people do ask me, why does local resident sentiment about the tourism industry matter so much? Because a lot of times tourism people think they're only facing outward. But because this sentiment doesn't exist in a vacuum, it ultimately influences the visitor experience and thus the strength of the destination's brand through what we call the resident sentiment feedback loop. So one point in the loop is travelers being attracted to the destination here, perceiving it to be vibrant and welcoming. And this attraction leads to an influx of visitors, which needs to be managed by the local tourism industry. The industry's performance in managing tourism impacts residents' quality of life. When residents perceive that their quality of life is affected positively by local tourism and its management, they tend to develop positive attitudes about the tourism industry. And then when residents have more positive attitudes about local tourism, they are more positive and engaging in their interactions with tourists. And these interactions with locals impact the visitor experience, and the visitor experience of a destination translates into its reputation and ultimately its ability to attract travelers, which then reinforces the loop. So what do Washoe County residents feel about tourism in Reno Tahoe? Well, fortunately, their sentiments are generally positive. Most Washoe County residents believe that tourism in the area has provided benefits to them. Residents see tourism as strengthening the local and state economies. About 3/4 of residents agree that tourism is very important to Nevada's economy, and more than 2 in 3 feel the same at the county level as well. Residents also see tourism as enriching their community through establishing and supporting local amenities and services. That includes events like festivals, arts and cultural experiences, and sporting events. It also includes dining, entertainment, and shopping options, which 6 in 10 Washoe County residents agree the tourism industry is responsible for creating. And it spans beyond to more social benefits like community services and environmental improvement. Half of residents believe tourism results in more funding for these aspects of local life. So to summarize the key takeaways from that big body of research into visitors, the brand performance, and residents' perceptions of tourism, here are 6 things that Reno Tahoe did in 2023. Reno Tahoe added vibrancy to the community in a way that was acknowledged and appreciated by residents. The destination attracted younger, more diverse visitors. Reno Tahoe inspired more overnight visitors to stay longer. The destination improved its brand equity in key attributes like family friendliness and value for money. Relatedly, Reno Tahoe developed a more versatile image as perceived by its target audience, which was achieved through capitalizing on its own channels to the RSCVA. And those channels boosted Reno Tahoe's marketing reach, which are linked to improved perceptions amongst your target audience, as well as better visitor outcomes. So it's my hope that these findings provided you with valuable insights into Reno Tahoe's wonderful visitors brand, and of course, you all, the amazing residents. I hope it gave you inspiration to carry your thriving tourism industry forward. If you want to chat or learn even more about the findings today or the other research that we do, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself. I'm also joined here by your dedicated research director on our team, Saida Yunus. We will look forward to answering any questions you have, and I believe we have some time now for questions.
Questions, comments? Mr. Murdock?
How important is gaming to our tourism here?
Very, yeah,
I mean,
it's one of the,
very, very, right?
Yeah.
I'm just looking at you, Christine.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is.
So thank you so much. That's important to know because I'm obviously in the gaming business, so we like to see how much it supports the real tourism drive here.
yes. Anyway, it's clearly a big element of your brand. There certainly we saw a lot of visitors engaging in that. But that's why we break it. There's so many aspects of the research. You can also always, of course, look at people who are motivated by gaming, people who are primarily motivated by gaming, and what we can learn by both audiences. And of course, for people that don't game, you see they have still had high satisfaction levels and they're still coming here. So
Thank you.
lots of opportunity.
Mr. Avatar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this total sample size is 528, is that right?
I'm sorry, I will double check that with you. Different sample sizes for each component. And the visitor study was 548.
548. So that's your end number. And was that taken at different parts or different times or seasons of our year?
So it's because it's an online survey, it was asked about the previous 12 months. So we do account for seasonality in that, but we ask about their past visitation in the previous 12 months. And our intention moving forward is to do, it's always good to do multiple waves. So, in case that somehow is not captured.
Yeah, the only interesting thing that I did look into data is I'd be curious about the individuals that responded, winter visitors, summer visitors, what that breakdown was. So if it was a response to people who just visited and their experience, did it all happen at one time? Did that email go out after the winter and then all of a sudden mostly winter? I mean, I think we need to see the 2 seasons. I know we have 4, but like that breakdown in the data.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We are looking forward to doing that analysis for you as we, so we're continuing to build on the visitor research program. And I know that that is a top priority. And certainly, so next time I'm with you, I should be able to share that.
Great.
Yeah.
Mr. Long.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think it's impressive that the length of stay is going up as ADRs are going up also. In North Lake Tahoe, we're seeing, because the ADRs are going up so rapidly, that length of stay is really decreasing overall. So the fact that Reno is actually seeing an increase in both is very nice. It seems like we have a lot of work to do though on the local outreach. What percentage of our budget, Christina, is focused on in-market to locals? Do we spend
We don't have dedicated advertising dollars to locals.
We don't, okay.
No. We are primarily focused on bringing tourism from our target markets outside of the region.
Okay, so nothing in market to locals. And I guess we could do that with sponsorships and things like that, bowling, have the bowling center open to locals to bowl. But I think some work needs to be done there, trying to get that local sentiment up on tourism.
Yeah, I think through other channels that we have been able to get in front of the local community, whether that's through community engagement opportunities, speaking opportunities, PR efforts, sustainability efforts, cleanups, meetups, and just engaging our local community in other avenues, but not necessarily that paid marketing advertisement to stay here in Reno, Tahoe.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
I'll add just anecdotally, we do a lot of that resident sentiment research. So anecdotally, I was impressed with at least the amount, the percentage of your residents that were able to relate tourism to their quality of life, like that they were able to see like, oh, okay, like they said, yes, tourism, created festivals and better retail. That was one area that was like, oh, that's nice that they able, because a lot of, like, I live in San Francisco and most residents cannot make that connection.
For sure. Yeah.
Mr. Swaggart.
Yeah, I think it kind of builds on member Elzar's comments, is just the methodology, and also because it's online, right? It seems like it would be any time of the season, any time of the year. I'm assuming this is how we did it prior also. And how long have we been with your organization? Is this the 3rd run or?
This was our second, we're moving to our 3rd, yes.
So I just think.
This is the second, just to address
Yeah.
that, and this is a year-long research program, so
You're getting.
it is
across
throughout the entire year to help answer some of that question. Yeah, and we have a dashboard where we can pull that information at any time, and Future Partners is constantly doing surveys throughout the year as well. It's not a one-time survey email
Good.
blast.
Yeah, I think when you're seeing, and again, I was thrilled to see the length of stay change, but on the other end, it was, what was it, 24% swing? Was it that much or
2.8 to, or 2.6 to 2.8 to 3.5, 0.7.
but we didn't really try to do it. I guess my point being is it's gonna be great to have a few years to truly see, is it a trend or is this a? Was it a sample 530 that just happened to hit it? Because again, if we're directing our efforts a certain way, is it effective or, you know, did we change something to affect that? On the segments that we, you know, the ambitious adventure, the culture, creative, all the, are you using that, Christina, is kind of, are we using the same terminology going, okay, these are segments we're trying to move to stay consistent?
Yes, so those are personas that we have identified as target audiences, and those are just names that we have labeled them as. So included in the ambitious adventurer, it's not only someone who likes the outdoors, but it's someone who is a gamer. They have that personality that is maybe a little riskier than maybe a mindful mom, who's someone who cares about sustainability efforts, and the culture creative who likes fine dining, arts and culture, museums. And so those are just labels on segments that we try to go after. And so we've taken those target audiences and have given them to future partners, and EVK, our agency of record, works very closely with them. And how do our audiences measure up to just that general audience, towards that target audience? Which segment is performing higher than another one? Do we shift any of that? And just to kind of go off of that as well, if I may, real quick, so these 3 reports all are on our website. This is just a snapshot of them. They are very lengthy, in-depth reports, which include the ad effectiveness, visitor profile study, and resident sentiment. We do plan on doing this annually and hopefully get some more trend lines and indicators. And this is only year 2. So right now, we only have last year to this year, and maybe it's an anomaly, maybe it's a trend. We don't know for sure yet until we continue to do this. And lastly, we are looking at, these obviously, they tell us some actionable guidance that inform the leadership team to make more strategic decisions. And next month's board meeting, we were originally hoping to have it this board meeting, but it's next month's board meeting. We're gonna identify some of our marketing efforts and how this is potentially impacting some of our efforts, our creative, and some of our actions. So coming soon on part 2 of this, but just to bring some color.
And then just last comment, the one segment to me that was glaringly not there is just the business traveler, not necessarily the conventioneer, you know, that could probably fall in there, but the activity that we have coming in and out of our doors that is either tied to trade or for whatever venture in this kind of catchment area. It'd be interesting if we could, and I don't know how you do that. I'm sure you have ways of adding either.
Oh, we have it, this, like Christina said, it is a snapshot today, and we do have that analysis in the report. I'd be happy to send that to you, and yes, the business and convention travel is so important to the vitality of a tourism industry like yours, so.
Now, could that segment, even though it wasn't highlighted here, be a driver on like length of stay change?
You know, so I don't recall seeing that when I was analyzing it. I don't recall them having a longer length of stay specifically, but we will certainly pull that. In fact, Christine, we can, if BDK wants to present it when they're here next month.
Thank you.
Mr. Murdock.
Thanks, Madam Chair. How, you know, you look at all those numbers, how much is inflation playing on all those numbers? I mean, for not only the gas, but the jet fuel to the room, everybody's making higher wages. I mean, it's how skewing is that on those numbers?
I get asked that a lot. So the money doesn't go as far as it did. So I tell people, yes, I mean, there's the spending numbers are going to be driven by inflation because everything is more expensive now. So really look at those, you know, looking at the proportions of where they're spending is important. I will tell you, we asked travelers about substitutions they were going to make. It was the largest one we saw was in dining decisions, but they were not going to cancel their trips. I mean, the Americans are still very committed to travel. I mean, I've been doing this for 24 years. I mean, it's just, I've never seen such rapid commitment to travel. I feel like something got taken away from them in the pandemic and they're still like, okay, no, I want that back. So yeah, money does not go as far as weighing on their minds, but they're still doing it. I mean, actually with the substitutions that we're seeing, I feel like it's the, you know, the local businesses that may suffer as, again, people don't buy as many things, but they are still traveling. That's the good news.
Any other questions?
I have one actually. Can we,
Mr. Reese?
yeah, so when it comes to the visitor sentiment, I was struck kind of like what Greg was saying about being able to tie in perhaps what we saw in the previous presentation to add to, you know, local sentiment with the 4,300, or I feel like it's 4,280 or something like that, the money that is saved per household. And I don't think we need to have a specific effort towards locals, but perhaps we could identify some social money or something that's less expensive that we could put towards that, just to ensure that we're keeping that resident sentiment high.
Absolutely. I mean, Mr. Lurgan can speak to it, but that's one of our main initiatives here moving forward, is telling our story better and louder to our local community.
Putting that in
And-
economic terms is helpful
Exactly,
too.
and with the tourism economics team coming on board, that we can relay some of that data as well, and so that is certainly an initiative that we hope to grow.
The other comment I have is when we started to talk about dupe opportunities, it made me uncomfortable. Just to think of us in that vein, that we can, that we need to do that. But if that is something that, given inflation and some of the other pressures, are there areas other than the intuitive ones, right? Like for gaming, if it's Reno instead of Vegas, for example, or one of those things, but are there other opportunities we think?
Oh, and just, you know, that was just something I wanted to think, and you are iconic domestic, like,
Thank you.
I actually,
That's
like, when I was thinking of, we still have over a third of Americans heading internationally. I know that some of my other clients in California, it was a big problem for them last year. Because people were like, I'm tired of wine country, I did that all in the pandemic, I'm going to Europe, I'm going to Japan. So I was thinking more like, dupe in that, okay, you don't have to, I don't know, go to Macau, you can come here.
Okay.
So more on that, and then again, just a trend, to relate to you to think about, and you were, too, thank you.
All right.
Any other comments, questions? Thank you.
Madam Chair, do you mind if I just share a personal experience with your advertising?
Absolutely.
As I was preparing for this presentation, I, of course, was in my own town of San Francisco, and then I happened to visit my parents in my hometown in LA. I was going through this extremely trendy neighborhood in LA with the type of visitors you absolutely want here, because they are gonna go all over and spend all kinds of money, and I saw your beautiful billboard there, and I was like, wow, and I'm sorry I didn't get a picture of it. And then I was at a Giants game in San Francisco, and I walked out, and there was another one of your billboards telling me to come see your art scene, and it was very inspirational, so great job.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Great information that we will get part 2 next month
Yes.
from BBK and tie it all together.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, moving on to item E1. We have a review and adoption of the RSCVA fiscal year 2024-2025 budget. This is our public hearing on the budget, and is Courtney going to present this, or Mike?
Yeah, so
I will give it to Courtney.
we'll have 3 presenters today. Aaron will present the food and beverage budget, Trent will present capital, and then I'll present the overall budget last.
Okay.
So. do we have- Hi, I'm Jennifer Castle. I'm the general manager for Airmark, here on the ground, for events, venues each day. Let's see. Let's see.
I guess while they're setting up, just a reminder for the budget itself. This was presented to the finance subcommittee already, so it's been vetted and approved in an advisory capacity to us today. So we did deeper dive on the finance side, which is a reminder of that, but obviously your questions at the end, most welcome after we get our presentations. And actually, we'll go ahead after Jennifer presents. Any questions for Irma? Since we're doing 3 pieces of this, I'll let you ask her questions and then we'll go to CIP and then we'll go to Courtney. So we'll break that into the 3 segments.
Right, so not a lot has changed from the last night's budget. We added some comparisons the prior year. So 2023, we were very heavy in catering. We had all except for 1 month of the USBC men's tournament fell into 2023. Additionally, we had large holiday parties at the convention center that we did not have in 2024. Therefore, our total profit at the end seemed lower in 2024. We anticipate a pickup of those sort of holiday parties at the convention center, working very closely with the staff there, the sales team, and getting in some new events to host for catering. Again, catering is a driver for sure in bottom line. We spread our labor dollars as far as management fees across the 4 venues. We take into consideration cost of sale for what product we're selling at each venue. So as you can see, we are definitely planning on an increase of overall revenue and other income for 2025.
Questions, Mr. Spuggett?
On the lost revenue on the Christmas or holiday parties, is that just because they aren't booked yet, or are some still in the pipeline?
So in 2024, for this fiscal 2024, they weren't booked as hot as readily as they were in 2023. But again, working with the RSCVA team on the ground, the anticipation is that there will be a higher percentage of holiday parties this year.
So Jennifer, really the biggest differential is the bowlers.
Yes,
For the bowling
absolutely.
stadium and
Yes,
the
ma'am.
revenue and the.
Yes, ma'am. For 2024, we're capturing a majority of the women's bowling for USBC. And then again, in 2025, we don't have the USBC here that year, so.
Okay. Questions, Mr.
Thanks,
Murdoch?
Madam Chair. So how big is the men's impact of your F&B? What percentage? Is that a big number for your whole bottom line?
It's a big number in that, it's 5 months long. There's many people in town. So I would say overall, and I don't know the exact percentage, but I would say it's 12% of the revenue. And a good 60% for NBS in and of itself.
Renee?
I just wanted to jump in, Renee McGinnis, for the record. Regarding the holiday parties that you asked about, because it's a very good question. What we found, and it was a little too late, that we had lost a lot of events due to some of the quality issues with the beverage. So Jennifer and my team have worked together to make some employment changes, and we've got a way better quality product now that we can sell. And our venue sales team is out actually pushing that information and giving tastings to those that didn't that have left us, and we're really working hard to get more of those holiday parties. So you know. Okay.
Mr. East?
So I'm struggling with to come up with some efficiency measures here when I don't have covers or participants or anything like that. But are we seeing revenue per participant or per cover go up, or are we seeing it go down? What are we forecasting to do based on visitors?
So we are seeing the per cap going up for sure. The visitor is definitely spending more per person. It obviously depends on the demographic and who we bring to each facility.
Okay, but cost of sales is up pretty good, huh? I mean,
Yes,
if we look at
cost of
25
sales
as a
is-
baseline, and I understand inflation,
Yes,
but
sir.
I guess my question is, are we looking at price increases to offset some of that? Because labor is all, I mean, if you look at what labor's up and cost of sales up, it's effectively eroding most of that revenue.
Correct. And so we definitely have a plan to do a cost analysis and move forward with some sort of price increase that will pass through to the board for approval.
But it's not reflected in these numbers?
It is not, because we don't have a date set to do it.
Okay.
Like, Mr. If I could just make a comment on that, Mike Larragetta for the record. So in looking at some of the revenues specifically to Mr. Murdoch's question at the National Bowling Stadium, we as an organization at the RSCVA and working with USBC made an effort to revise pricing significantly based on the feedback we were getting from the bowlers and participants. So in terms of the revenue impact that had, it was significant in both when the men's and the women that are currently here.
Okay.
So that definitely impacted our direct profitability and revenues.
I mean,
Revenue sales actually went up, profitability
We
down.
responded to them saying that the prices were too high, so we lowered.
That is correct. And it was a significant adjustment.
The reason that, John, was because if you go down to Vegas, his prices that at all the tournaments are way lower, so we compromised with them.
Yeah.
To keep it in the game, because they really came after us after the pricing, not only from the stadium, but also any kind of casino or hotel pricing.
And I guess if we think about it, I mean, that's a value venue, and I get it, that's just it just is. But some of these other venues perhaps can be a little bit more tolerant of, you know, some price changes, and so are we looking at it venue by venue?
So we do.
Okay.
Again, Mike Larragetta, it's a very valid point. What we do find though is an advantage we have as a destination when pursuing large conventions, association, trade shows, and specifically sports, is we still have to have play on that value proposition. So we use, you know, the cost of a gallon of coffee as part of our spiel and our sales versus other markets that are, you know, either union driven or third-party management running their facilities. And we take that all into consideration, and we do assess, you know, competitive pricing. To your point, yes, there are opportunities, but it does impact our ability to close business as well.
Understood.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you. Appreciate it.
What's that? You might have to load it.
That's not it now. Thank. Fran, did you load your presentation? I did. I put it on there. It should be you and me.
Okay. Stand by, and we've got Brett will be presenting as soon as we get our technology funds.
We're like open, so there we go.
Thank you.
was about to compliment IT for the new lights, but with this. Should.
Okay.
Good morning. Trent LaFerrier for the record, and we'll go over our capital budget. Start with the Reno Convention Center. Most of the stuff has gone through, just like the chair said, and we'll just go through it again. And so we have the meeting room drain repairs. That is a issue that we're having with the pipes being undersized for the capacity of the roof and some breaks in there, so we're gonna fix that. The pallet wrapper is gonna help us with protecting the track and when we store it, as is other things. Speaker stacks are there to help with concerts, with big events that we need better sound. The Wi-Fi renovations obviously has been a big issue with all of our properties, so that'll go on with others, but we've been improving it. We still need to continue. PA speaker upgrade that we had with the tournament, Memorial Day Jam on a tournament, that was an issue. We were not quite loud enough and clear enough, so that'll be taking care of that. Digital displays, this will continue through the other properties also, so we can get better advertising, better marketing, better direction. Lot C gate renovation, it's kind of a target for traffic accidents and stuff, so we're gonna take care of that and eliminate that portion of it. Lighting upgrades for the AMR rooms and the ballrooms. This is the controls that allow us to have better control over the meeting rooms. They're old, they're ancient, they're outdated, and they're not functioning correctly. And then the repavement of Lot C, it's in pretty poor shape, so it needs to be repaved, not just a crack and fill. Next one is Reno Livestock Event Center. The drum roller is a piece of equipment to help with the outdoor and indoor dirt areas. Purchase of a new loader, that'll help us get in between the smaller areas than we can with a large one. And purchase of AV equipment, same thing with the others. We're trying to upgrade and bring into the modern era some of our old outdated equipment. New panel replacements for the cutting arena. These are the panels that direct the livestock, whether it be cattle or horses, sheep, whatever, then that's kind of an expendable item that can get damaged, so they need replacement occasionally. Main arena speaker upgrade is the same idea with the PA speaker, sound, everything with the other properties. So this will be kind of a repeat. The new footing in the main arena, that's the new fresh dirt for the Arabians and whatever. And as we cycle through that, it'll get degraded and we'll have to replace that. Digital signs, same idea as the others. Power vault repair, we've got some really degraded power vaults out of the northeast end of the indoor arena. So those need to be replaced. Next is the National Bowling Stadium. So upgrade the electrical power to temporary power, and that's up in the grid, and it helps us with power drops, etc. Recarpet the elevator lobby on the second and third floors. That's the tie-in that didn't get done on the original remodel a few years back, and it'll clean up that appearance of the old carpet. Purchase of new pins. I think that one's kind of self-explanatory. We pins every once in a while. Purchase and install new flooring for the back of the house. That's the whole back area from the squad room in through the freight elevator and around the north end of the building. It's old linoleum, but probably 60% of it is all peeled up and it's not good. Weatherproof, though, of the fourth floor windows, the weather stripping and the seal is degraded where we have leaks as soon as we have rains. We want to take care of that. Purchase of new lockers, again, kind of obvious there for the large bowling bags that come in. And instead of having a third party operating, we're going to do them ourselves and then get full profit from that. Replace the employee parking gate. It is a system that the company that built it and installed it doesn't exist anymore. And we have no more cards for new employees or anything else. We need to replace that. Purchase the digital signs, once again, the same as the other properties. And new carpet for the elevator panels. They're on the floor. It's the same thing as the second, third floors. They're old and they don't line up with the new stuff. Reno Event Center, purchase of a new forklift that has side shift. It'll make moving in and out of concerts much easier and more efficient. Elevator repair, the ceiling on it was damaged some time ago and we need to get that cleaned up so we can improve the experience for the people that are going up to the VIP area. Purchase new risers and the purchase of a new stage decking, but those kind of go hand in hand. It's equipment that wears, it's the equipment that gets damaged over time and we need to fix those. And that's obviously for concerts, for events that they have a stage up there that they need to utilize. Install new dock heaters. That is out on the back dock and that would be mostly for concerts, for the venue, for the performers. In the wintertime, that gets very cold out there. Digital signs, same thing. Upgrade the seating up in the suites. Currently, we have very old, worn out seating. We don't have cup holders. We're not giving the experience that we're trying to do in the future. So we can drive more sales up there and it'll kind of go along with the suite renovations. And then I had per venue. I know that got brought up before on why we're spending certain monies on certain properties. And so this gives you a little rundown of the percentage of the properties that the capital is going to. And that one on the bottom that says all, that is kind of mixed in with marketing, with IT equipment, stuff over here. So that's really not categorized in the other properties, but it just kind of goes through and covers them all. And that's my presentation.
Okay. Trent, on the seating in the suites, it's the outside.
Yes, I'm sorry. This is the loggia area that's
right. That when you go out to sit to watch whatever
correct.
The event is.
Outside.
Will that finish up the suites with the other renovations we've been doing the last year?
June 10th is when we start the carpet. So that'll take about 4 or 5 days. And that's the lobby from the escalator, elevators, all the way around to the women's restroom, that entire area to match the carpet in the suites.
Okay. But then everything else is completed now.
We're still talking with Airmark on a bar upgrade, and that hasn't been finalized, but for the most part, we'll be there.
Okay. They're beautiful. I mean, such a huge difference. It's
well,
amazing.
Wait until Christina's little film comes out. Level. It's fantastic.
Thank you. Mr. Larragetta.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Mike Larragetta. I just wanted to, one, great job, Trent. Thank you. I just wanted to make a comment to the board.
Signing out
That the staff had responded to board requests to looking at prioritizing these capital improvements by facility in terms of a timeline. And that those timelines were established based on obviously business needs from the standpoint, business that is on the books to make sure that the facilities are up to speed and up to par to be able to accommodate the business that is on the books. And also in terms of us making sure the facilities are in a position for us when we're pursuing and soliciting new business moving forward. So that has been prioritized by facility. And then the second thing is there was an item that was potentially going to be on today's agenda from a consent standpoint that we tabled, just for every board member's information, and that is the scoreboard for the indoor arena at the Reno Livestock Event Center. So we, at the recommendation of the board, through our pre-board meetings, are looking to go out and have discussions with Reno Rodeo, also looking at opportunities as it relates to sponsorship and advertising on that scoreboard to offset some of the cost that the bid did come in significantly higher than we had budgeted, so we wanted to do everything we can to ensure to get back to the number that was budgeted for that scoreboard. And then the last thing is obviously, besides prioritizing these capital improvements by facility, by timeline throughout the fiscal year, I just want to make sure everybody understands that obviously safety is a big component of that as well. So, thank you.
Mr. Long?
Thank you, Trent, for breaking that all out. How does this compare to other years, our capital improvements on these facilities? It looks like it's about 4.4 million with me just looking at it here. How does it compare to other years?
We are, obviously, Courtney can answer to it a little cleaner on the whole budget, but we're a little bit less because of anticipation of our room and tax being decreased. So we try to balance that out with the capital monies that Courtney has allocated to this. So we're going to stay within that range.
So, Mr. Long, so we're, again, my third year, we're obligated per policy to allocate 10% of the total budget towards capital on an annual basis. So we generally fall right in that 4.2 to $5 million per year. An exception was this fiscal year because of the augmentation, we were able to allocate additional funds into capital that took our capital budget to 7.3 million this current fiscal year.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions on capital projects? Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, we'll move over to Courtney.
Give me one moment. Ready?
And we're ready.
Morning, Courtney Jager, Vice President of Finance. Today I'm presenting our proposed budget for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025. So first is our agenda for this presentation. We'll start off by reviewing a quick summary of the overall budget and then our funding policies in place for the strategic plan. After that, we'll review general fund revenues and resources, general fund expenses, and review the RSCVA's other funds. So first, I wanted to give a quick summary of our process with the Finance Committee and a quick overview of what our overall budget looks like this year. So we met with the Finance Committee on May 10th, and the budget was reviewed and approved by the committee as presented and an advisory capacity. There are 4 members of the Finance Committee and Mr. Squab is the chair. So we'll be diving into this in a lot more detail, but I wanted to make sure you have this summary information for reference. So essentially, we've budgeted for revenues and expenses to come close to breaking even. So next we'll talk about strategic plan financial policies. The budget is largely guided by the board's financial policies for the strategic plan. So we'll start with the discussion of how those are addressed in the budget. So first is the policy related to general fund reserves. Policies related to general fund reserves have been in place for many years, and the current policy calls for 15 to 17% of expenditures to be maintained and ending unassigned fund balance, which is essentially 2 months of operating expenses. This budget supports that amount, but it also depends on activity throughout the year, so actual revenues and expenses will determine that ending fund balance. Capital was presented separately, but the next policies here are related to capital expenses. Like Mike mentioned, these direct us to dedicate up to 10% of annual room tax collections towards capital expenses and maintain certain amounts related to capital reserves. And next is the rainy day fund. The board's policy sets the rainy day fund at up to 2 million, and the current balance in the rainy day fund is 1.9 million and supports this policy. So last are board initiatives. The two current board initiatives to get are air service and special events. So during December 2023, you'll remember that the air service fund was increased to 3 million and will be maintained at $3 million each year going forward. In the fiscal year 25 budget, we've allocated $350,000 to get that balance back up to 3 million, since we anticipate spending 350 in this current fiscal year. Special event funding is still at $1 million total. That consists of $500,000 allocated through the Special Event Marketing Sponsorship Program and $500,000 in the Special Event Opportunity Fund. So next we'll talk about general fund revenues and resources, which is how the budget is run. So this is the composition of general fund revenues and resources for the budget year compared to the current year. So the largest portion of our budget is room tax, which consists of the collection and the tourism surcharge. Next are facilities revenues. The next highest component is carry forward fund balance, which is essentially amounts that we budgeted this current fiscal year and won't be spending in the current year. And we'll go into more detail about each of these categories next. So first we'll review our budget for room tax revenues. These are the same estimates that we already presented to the board during April 2023. Room tax is estimated using trend analysis over average daily room rates, collections in prior periods, market segment trends, and other economic considerations, including a possible recession. Again, these estimates are based on our detailed calculations. If we find that revenues are coming in under budget, internally we'd adjust our budget and react quickly. If revenues are to come in over budget, we'll review that with the finance committee and likely request an augmentation to spend those revenues. So on this slide, we have another look at historical RSCVA room tax revenues from the pandemic to the current budget.
Not trying to interrupt this one, but so we're still showing we're 5% down, correct?
Correct,
Year
yeah.
to date.
So in total, from the last fully completed fiscal year, we'll be down a little over 7%. Right, so next we'll look at certain room tax statistics. Our increases in room tax revenues during the last few years have been heavily driven by average daily room rates. For fiscal year 25, we haven't estimated a significant drop in ADR. We do think occupancy will be the primary driver for these decreases in taxable room revenues. Here's the breakdown of total taxable room revenues by market segment. We're estimating that the growth in vacation rentals will continue to hold up, whereas hotels would see that level drop. Right, here we have occupied rooms by market segment, with hotels having the largest decrease. Here we have trend related to average daily rates. Again, we aren't predicting sharp drops in rates at this time. Here we have a comparison of taxable room revenues by tax district, and we do expect to see decreases for all of the larger districts. So here we have a comparison of facilities revenues by facility and category. So revenue estimates for facilities revenues and other revenues are from the sales and events team. These are based on actual bookings and likely bookings. Concessions and catering revenues are prepared by Airmark and were just presented separately. So the other category of facilities revenues, this consists of parking revenues, AV charges, internet, and other services. In fiscal year 25, the sales and events team is budgeting for $400,000 in sponsorship revenues in the other revenues category. This is new and is driven by our venue sponsorship sales manager. So we'll talk about facilities expenses in detail later in the presentation, but I did want to give the board an overview of our loss projections for the year compared to prior years. So we are budgeting for an increase in the total facilities loss figure. Facilities expenses are heavily sensitive to inflation, and we've seen really sharp increases in areas like utilities. Trent could speak to this in a lot more detail, but cost containment at the facilities is difficult, especially when we need to maintain a certain level of staffing for events we're booking within the year. We'll go over the expense portion in a lot more detail later in the presentation, but I did want to make sure the board had that full picture. Right, so next we'll talk about additional revenues and resources. Other revenues consist of certain administrative fees, smaller revenues generated by the departments, and interest earnings. And like I mentioned earlier, a big component of the budget is carry forward fund balance. The majority of this consists of unspent amounts from air service at 2.6 million. The fiscal year 24 allocation towards the indoor portable track that was approved back in December. That's $3.1 million that we're carrying forward to make those track payments for fiscal year 25. We're also carrying forward the special rent opportunity fund at 500,000. And the remainder of this line item consists of items that are going to come in under budget, like the incentives. So we covered revenues in a lot of detail, and now we're going to move on to general fund expenses. So here we have an overview of general fund expenses by operating category and some comparisons to the prior year. Overall, the composition of our expenses will stay pretty consistent from the current budget year to the future budget year. Our largest category of spending is payroll and related costs, with promotion and advertising being our second highest category. And here we have expenses broken down again by department. Marketing and air service are the highest, followed by facilities and then sales. And we'll go into more detail now regarding each category and each department. So here we have the breakdown of payroll and related expenses. Facilities are 37% of our total payroll, and sales is 30%, which makes up the majority of our payroll spending. A lot of payroll expenses are consistent from year to year. So for this presentation, we wanted to really focus on new items that the board should be aware of. So first is staffing. We hired for certain positions in fiscal year 24 that are on the screen. Fiscal year 25 will be a full year of those positions hitting the budget. In fiscal year 25, we're planning to hire for 3 full-time positions. Next, wanted to talk about cost of living adjustments. This is the same COLA plan that was presented to the board in April, but we just wanted to give a refresher. So essentially, our cumulative COLAs are still tracking behind inflation. So we are recommending a COLA in fiscal year 25. However, rather than giving everyone in the organization the same percentage, we're going to tier COLAs and eliminate them for senior directors and above. COLAs used to be the same for every category of employee from CEO to staff. So this is a change for fiscal year 25. This new approach will save the organization approximately $190,000. So next, we wanted to review our bonus programs. We did go over this in April, but we just wanted to give another refresher. So first is the goals-based bonus program. This was put into place by previous leadership and has been in place for several years. This year, we are making modifications to the program, including making sure that goals are stricter and based on quantifiable metrics. So we're eliminating any qualitative goals. We also decreased the bonus percentages for directors and above, while increasing the bonus percentages for staff and managers. Overall, we expect lower bonus payouts due to having stricter goals. So we anticipate savings of around $34,000 here. And the next is the incentive-based bonus program. Certain members of the sales department are eligible for incentive-based bonuses. We anticipate payouts of around $191,000 here. And then last are merit increases. These are tied to annual performance reviews, and a qualifying employee can receive up to 3%. All right, the next largest category is promotions and advertising. The majority of promotions and advertising consists of marketing and air service. So we've outlined the significant portions of this budget on the screen, including $5.4 million in leisure media buys and the amounts for air service. Air service in this category is budgeted at slightly less than $3 million due to amounts we've set aside for the airline consultant to negotiate any potential MRGs on our behalf. If there are questions about this portion of the budget, or if the board would like more detail, Christina can go into that after this presentation. So if within the promotions and advertising budget, we have amounts allocated within finance and administration. As discussed at the April board meeting for fiscal year 25, we're implementing dedicated funds this year for unsolicited proposals. These funds will be administered with the new unsolicited proposals policy, and this will be presented later in this meeting. In total, we budgeted $350,000 towards unsolicited proposals. So next is services and supplies. The majority of this category is related to facilities expenses, which we have further broken out on the screen. And for facilities, services and supplies have just been heavily impacted by overall cost increases. We've seen increases of 16 to 40% in our utility bills, and inflation impacts every other category in this area. This is an area that Trent and his team will really need to keep a close eye on in this upcoming year, just because it's so sensitive to inflation. If activities at the facilities exceeds budget, we will need to augment expenses here, because as we drive more revenues and get more events in business, most of these expenses go up directly in proportion with that business. So just something we monitor very closely throughout the year. The next highest category of spending in services and supplies is in finance and administration. Our largest line item here is our general liability insurance. We are still waiting for quotes from the carriers, but we budgeted a 25% increase here. We've put in a lot of work in the last year to attempt to lower rates. We've enhanced cybersecurity initiatives. We work directly with the carriers on risk assessments. So we are hopeful that this increase will come in below 25%, but we do need to budget accordingly at this point. The good news is that the increase will be less than what we've seen in previous years, since we've consistently seen over 35% in the last 2 years due to market conditions. Within the executive office budget, the highest expense in the supplies and services category is rent for this building. Next, we'll move on to special projects. So special projects is historically where the organization budgets special event funding, event sponsorships, commitments, and related costs. One change here is that we've moved the special event opportunity fund from the marketing budget to the sales budget, since the director of event development is in the sales department. So the $500,000 that's still in marketing is for the special event marketing sponsorship program, and the remainder of the budget in this area is related to concessions, commitments, and event sponsorships. So next is travel and entertainment. Travel and entertainment overall will have a slight decrease from the prior year. 81% of our spending here occurs in the sales department. And we've broken down on the screen how those travel expenses are split between the different categories like entertainment and registrations. The next is apportionment. These are the amounts we grant to Travel North Tahoe, Nevada based on collections and Washoe lead, and we are predicting an overall decrease. There are two other smaller categories of operating expenses. The first is small equipment, which is primarily IT related and items sizable. Next is contingency, and we budget contingency funds annually. Quickly, next we'll review the RSCVA's other funds. Capital improvement plan was already presented by Trent, but in total, our capital budget for this year is $7.6 million, including that $3.1 million that was carried forward for the import track. And next is the debt service fund. We use transfers to fund the required principal and interest payments here. And then last is the insurance fund. This was essentially covered during our discussion of payroll related expenses, but essentially we have a separate fund that accounts for health insurance and workers' compensation activities. Fund balance in this fund is generally minimal. Some years we have a slight increase, some years we have a slight decrease. These figures will change since they're based on estimates, and we don't go through our health insurance renewal process until later in the year. With that, I'll open it up for any questions or discussion.
Commissioner Hill. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the great presentation. For new positions, I'm not really clear on what you said we have budgeted to hire 3 full-time positions to address business levels. What does that mean? Who are they? What are they doing?
Yeah, absolutely. We can go into detail about this. So the first position is the creative director within the marketing department. Christina can speak to that position a little more.
And what else?
I figured we could just go by this if you wanted. So Christina, did you want to talk a little bit about the creative director?
Yeah, so this position has been one that's been needed for several years at this point, and finally prioritizing within this budget. And so we have taken more than the amount that it would cost to hire this position, and we're anticipating savings. And so we have removed those costs from the marketing budget in anticipation of hiring this position. And those savings are in the multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars that we're anticipating with the hire of this position.
The next position is an administrative assistant in sales.
Sure. Mike Clary got it for the record. So what we looked at, Commissioner Hill, is we looked at business levels for the prior fiscal years and what our FTE counts were at that time. And when we looked at business levels per se, and I'm speaking specifically on meetings and conventions and sports, room nights and number of leads that we're sourcing. On the number of room nights, what we are presenting today on our goal is less than 1819. However, the number of leads and the room nights that are generated from those leads, the leads are at 92% of fiscal year 1819, 1920 levels, and the room nights are actually surpassed what we have seen this fiscal year in terms of room nights that are being requested in the destination that we're sourcing to the stakeholders. So we're basically at and surpassing 18, 19, and 19, 20 levels. And then we looked at our FTE count, we're still, even after the replenishment of the VPSLs and adding the administrative assistant, we're still at an FTE count of less two bodies than we were in those 2 fiscal years. So it's purely being driven by business levels.
The last position is an HR director position, and we are adding that also to address increased business levels and staffing levels.
Okay, great. And then one more question. On facilities for the increase in operation, have we looked into cost savings of making some of our buildings more green, and finding grants for that? And if you need help, like, we can talk offline. There's.
I would love that. Yes, we have looked at different filter systems, stuff like that, keeping the buildings more even on the temperature swings, depending on whatever's going on in the event. Or one hall to another hall, to try to balance that out so our system's not fighting each other. And this is on all the properties. So yeah, if you have info on that, I would love some more of that.
Okay, thank you.
And Trent, didn't we, haven't you tried to transition in all of the facilities to more LED lighting?
No, absolutely.
And
No,
I
that's-
know we talked about Reno Event Center and the difference not only in the lighting of the facility, the quality of the light, but your cost savings.
Yes,
Your
and
return on
that is-
investment on
that
that
is
is really
helped.
good.
Offset the increase in utility costs from power. We're still seeing an increase, but that helped a lot. It also helped with the experience that the customers see because the lighting is so much better. And then we are also in the middle of a potential project to go with geothermal into the convention center. And so we're working with that with a company that this has been going on for seven years-ish. And they have finally gotten through with the city with the permitting process. So as that goes down Peckham, we want to tie into it. Some of it, they've gotten a different format to deliver the geothermal. So some of the shopping centers around can also tap into that. So that's a big win for us. And obviously Peppermill knows all about the geothermal on the savings that it can help with the building.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mr. Murdoch.
Commissioner Hill brought up a great point. Why should we have somebody that's in Trent's area that's an expert on getting funding from Fed money? Why, I mean, that's just one aspect of the green money. What other monies can you get through some federal grants for tourism or things that, there might be, I'm just saying, we're winging it here. Why don't we do it professionally and go find out how we can get on grants? What are available?
Mike Largett, for the record, thanks, Mr. Murdoch, for the comment. And we all realize that and appreciate that. We had a discussion with Courtney and I did with the Porter Group, who we still have under retainer, about getting them more involved in presenting those opportunities from a federal level. Courtney does an outstanding job of identifying opportunities as well. But I think a lot of things that we're trying to do moving forward in this organization, I think collaboration and communication is key, and any assistance that this board can provide us in opening those doors, we would appreciate that. As for identifying an individual or an expert, that's something we can take into consideration, look into that. As it relates to, I don't know if that would be a government affairs position or what that position would look like, but would love your feedback and recommendations, and we can definitely look at it.
Or rent a grant writer who, you gotta identify what you can get, what you can't get, but it might be easier for you just to hire somebody at the outside vendor to write the grants for you if you have to, but go after all this potential money if there is any,
And I couldn't agree more. On the grant writer, I know City of Sparks, we only recently in the last 2 years have actually hired a position as grant writer. We had our poor police and fire writing grants, and we weren't that successful because we didn't have people who do grant writing. And I would agree that maybe not hiring a full-time employee for that, but looking at contracted services, as outside services for grant writers to look for opportunities that would really make a lot of sense, because I think we'd have possibilities of some additional income coming in, both federal and state, and private grants that we might be eligible for. I like that.
Absolutely.
Ms. Hill, did you have another? No, you're good.
No, I'm just emailing my sustainability manager to see if we can get you guys.
Mr. Smuggett?
With the, when will you see on the general liability number? You're saying we don't have it coming in yet, but when do you expect it?
Yeah, we're hoping to get quotes in the next couple of weeks so we can present at the June meeting.
Okay.
At the latest, we would present in July, but June is the goal.
And with the sound, feels like a little softening on the incline Crystal Bay forecast. Are there rooms coming offline? Is that why, or is it just
Yes.
softening in general?
It's primarily driven by decreases in occupancy, and on Washoe, we are expecting a slight decrease in ADR, but it's primarily occupancy.
And then the one thing and again, these are just kind of miscellaneous, on the air service fund, Mike, could we just, I know we had the presentation last month or 2 months ago?
Last month, yeah.
And blurring my meetings, but could we make sure that we're just, I think with this fund, there's a lot more emphasis from the board, and I think just an occasional, whether it's quarterly, if this is where we're at, this is a possible opportunity between RASC, the airport, ourselves. If there's something out there.
Absolutely. So Mike Clarion for the record, absolutely. I agree with that, Mr. Esquaga. And, so some of the information that we would present would probably need to remain confidential based on what stage of the process those negotiations are in. But anything that is, that we can share publicly, in terms of opportunities with new routes or MRGs or marketing support, either myself or Christine Ernie can absolutely update the board.
Thanks, Madam Chair.
Broke the light,
broken.
so we'll just leave it on like that.
Hey, Mike, Steve brought up a good point on the RASC, and according to the presentation we just saw, was a great presentation, that your website is very powerful. I think that's a pretty good testament to, trying to say the RASC can use more of its dollars for, like I say, advertising with an airline on a route or finding a new airline. So that was interesting about your power of your logo. I think that needs to be,
Yeah,
for the air service. That's what I'm using it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay, no more comments. I'm looking for a motion. Public hearing. Guess I open a public hearing. Do we have any public comment on the 2024-25 RSCVA budget?
No, that's fine.
Seeing no public comment, I'll close public comment. Looking for a motion.
Move to approve and adopt the budget for 2024 and 2025.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Hill to approve the budget as presented. Second?
Second.
I see, nodding your head. Second by Mr. East. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much.
Yes.
E2, we are reviewing, discussing, and approving the revised unsolicited proposals policy. Mr. Largetta, this is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mike Clarion for the record. So the unsolicited policy that we are presenting and discussing today is part of the board's request of an overall review of this board's policies. We had made a recommendation to expedite this policy based on the requirements that we are seeing that is coming in front of this organization, this board, asking for financial support. So we took an existing policy with the guidance from Mr. Kennedy, and Courtney Jaeger led the senior team in drafting a revised policy. We then presented this policy to the subcommittee, which made some recommendations, which we have adopted and added into the policy. The intent of this unsolicited policy is to have senior staff review all submissions for funding in two buckets. One bucket being for anything in an amount below $10,000, which Courtney presented in the budget today, which would sit in the executive line item of the budget. Senior staff, based on the submissions, would review those submissions, ensuring that they met the criteria in order to receive funding. We would then make the decision at the senior staff level to either approve or deny that request, and that would not come in front of the executive or legislative committee or the entire board for review. So those, again, would, just to reiterate, those would be all requests of $10,000 or less. Anything that is requested for funding, unsolicited funding above $10,000, again, would go to senior staff. We would ensure that it met the criteria. If we felt that this request was valid and move forward, we would then present that to the finance committee, not executive legislative committee. The finance committee would then review that and make a decision on whether to move that forward to the entire board for review and approval. The goal of this is to obviously remove the number, or reduce the number of requests that are coming to the board, reduce the number of presentations, really vet the process in terms of who should be approved for funding or not based on the criteria that is outlined in the policy and the program. This policy will not allow for double dipping from the special event funding, will not allow for double dipping in the event opportunity funding. So it's an independent fund. And I just want to reiterate that our goal is to, once the 50,000 and the 300,000, if they are fully utilized, that we will not be coming back to the board asking for additional funding in this particular area.
But that's an annual 350 per budget year.
That is correct.
Once it's spent, it's spent.
Correct.
Okay. Questions, comments? I don't know, Commissioner Hill, you're chair of that subcommittee. Did you want to add anything from our subcommittee meeting, or did you have other comments?
Well, I just wanted to commend staff, all the changes that the executive subcommittee recommended are in here, and the forum looks great, and so I really appreciate it, and I know that we discussed this a lot in the executive committee, so looking forward to implementing this.
Well, okay. Other questions, comments? Thank you, guys. I think this really makes a lot of sense and does take pressure off the board too from, proposals that just walk in the door. Not that we don't support those, we do, but just this is another format to let us streamline and vet things. And I do appreciate the paperwork too. And that was something that subcommittee felt was really important, what does the form look like and what people do? And that people understand too, when they come in, they could qualify for the marketing, for the opportunity, for this unsolicited, a lot of different places that when a group comes to us, we don't always have to say no, but we can direct them to what is most appropriate. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much for all your work. Okay, if I have no more comments or questions, I'm looking for a motion from the.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Hill to approve the revised unsolicited proposals policy, second by Mr. Murdock. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Those here. Okay, moving on to item E3, discussion of the 2024-25 President CEO goals. Mr. Largetta.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, Mike Largetta for the record. Today, we will be presenting the 2000 fiscal year 24-25 President and CEO goals. These goals were determined with a focus, the 7 goals were determined with a focus, as I had mentioned in previous meetings, to be 100% quantitative. Today, each representative from the respective areas that the goal aligns with will present that particular goal. These goals are weighted. These goals are weighted based on priority that we determined within senior staff. So the first goal that I will present, which is tied to direct sales room night production at a 20% weighted value of the 100% of the goal, is a group room night goal of 261,122 group room nights. That is a slight increase of just over 10%. How, as you can imagine, there are several factors that go into determining this goal, and just to provide some of these highlights. So obviously with the indoor track coming online this December with arrival in November, we factored in 20,000 additional room nights to be contracted in year one, with approximately 12,500 of those room nights consuming in year one of the indoor track season. Again, that is December through the first 2 weeks of March, and then additional room nights that will be booked within this fiscal year for subsequent years moving forward. We had one legacy account that we always included within the sports team's goals that is no longer returning to our destination. That was a group that represented about 8,000, so that was subtracted. And then we went through each particular region of the 7 remote offices and identified where we feel there are room nights and opportunity to increase those goals. And just to share with the board the breakdown, the Northeast office had a 10% increase, Southeast 5%, Midwest 5%, Plain States 5%, Southern California 5%, and Northern California had a 27% increase. That is predominantly driven by accounts that we defined for this fiscal year as legacy accounts that we anticipate coming back on an annual basis. There is still work in a process of rebooking existing business, but we thought it was appropriate to increase that goal significantly. Contributing factors in terms of how we also came up with the 261, 112, just to share some statistics. The fiscal year 23-24 group night production is looking at 24-25 at 81% of our 19-20 room night production due to conversion. So as I mentioned earlier, we are seeing the number of leads in comparison to 18 and 19, when our room night goal was 290,000, being at about 92% in terms of what we're pacing right now through the month of April. However, the room nights representing those leads are actually over 100% of what we saw from the leads in 18-19. And so what's really driving the delta between the 261 and the 290 is conversion, is strategic policies and how our hotels are responding to the group business in general. It's obviously quality of the leads, it's the size of the individual leads, timing of the leads, demographic, several factors that contribute to that number. But that is a summary of how we came up with goal one at 261,112 total room nights for the fiscal year. Happy to take any questions on that specific goal before we move forward to the other goals.
Any questions from Mr. Larragetta?
Just to clarify, I don't know if I heard it right. So Mike, are you saying are leads down, but conversions are up?
So leads are down, they're about 92%, but the room nights from those leads in the current fiscal year are above and beyond the room nights were produced from the leads in 18-19.
And if I'm reading it right, and again, this always devil's in the details, right? And as we come around in a year to go, wait, what do we mean exactly? But it's so for this goal one, 20% of the overall potential goal.
That's correct.
And then if we don't hit this goal altogether, there's actually a scaling. If you hit 80% of it, right, you get, where am I at here?
Yeah, that's correct. So this was a, just to be completely transparent, this was established over the years with prior CEOs in this goal and this percentages. So we just cut and pasted it. Basically, we increased the percentages a little bit, but yes, if 90% of the 261 is hit, I would receive a portion of that 20%.
No, it makes sense. There's my own clarification, because again, we get it here and it's kind of what exactly.
It's complicated.
Yeah,
I understand.
Okay.
Mr. Murdoch.
What is the overall, Mike, what is the total goal reward
I'm sorry.
for you? What would be the total goal and reward?
So I'm sorry, thank you, Mr. Murdoch, Mike Larragetta for the record. The total bonus percentage that was approved by the board when we approved my contract was at 15%.
So if this is all inside of the 15%.
That's correct.
So I just wanted to.
With a
So just to clarify.
10% with 5% discretion. Sorry.
Correct, so the 10% is
tied to the
based
goals.
upon these goals, so there's a 10% of salary under the contract based upon performance of these goals. Then there is a separate 5% that the board can, at its full discretion, award. Separate and apart from these goals.
Thank
So
you.
just to clarify, for that initial pot for performance, it'll be the 10% of salary. So this would be 20% of that 10%.
Correct.
And then when all that is done, we can decide on the additional.
The
5.
additional
That's
5
correct.
is over and above and fully discretionary with the board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on.
Okay, thank you. Presenting goal number 2 will be Vice President of Marketing, Christine Ernie.
Hello, so I'm recommending that we shift a couple of our marketing goals this year to better speak to the impact of our marketing and advertising efforts. As we even saw in the Future Partners this morning, to convert that intrigue into bookings. And so I'm recommending a shift from paid impressions to paid media engagement. So the goal would be to achieve an average paid media engagement of 5% or higher by the end of this fiscal year. Currently, we are pacing to end fiscal year 24 at around 3%. So this would be a pretty significant increase with a 2% increase, which is actually a 60% increase, but in our advertising engagements. And advertising engagements are defined as clicks on advertising, watching a video to completion, commenting on an ad, reacting to an ad, which includes likes or saves, or sharing an ad. And this is an average across all of our paid media channels. And we think that one of the most important outcomes for our advertising is commanding the attention. And this, to us, indicates that they are engaging with our ads, with our brand, by actually taking an action on our ad versus just eyeballs on an ad. And we know that these engagements also occupy more headspace and leave a deeper impact on that consumer. So that is why we have indicated paid media engagement as an ad for this year. Similarly, moving to our website, we are also, as goal number 2 for marketing, is to achieve a partner referral per user of 0.14 or higher at the end of the fiscal year. So currently, we are pacing to end fiscal year 24 at around 0.11, 0.12, somewhere in there. So this would be a 20% increase over this past fiscal year. We are anticipating this jump with the one redesign of our new website that many of you are familiar with. That's going to launch here in June, which is coming up very quickly. But with that, we are hoping to change the makeup of our website to drive more conversions. And this is people who then go to one of our partner pages, which includes website clicks to lodging, events, and things to do. So those are the 2 marketing goals. If anyone has any questions on those, I will pause here.
Any questions for Christina?
I don't know if it's a question as much as a comment on some of this. This is, I think, an example where you have to defer to. Yeah. So I don't agree with the 0.14. I just think, and I think too, when we pull the data, I'm assuming, I know this is a little funny because we're pulling our own data, right, to measure it.
Yes, we are. And we're working with our website agency partners as well, who helped us draft these goals. And we're looking at trend lines going into next year. Yeah.
Yeah. I just think, again, I think I'm somewhat trusting it. It's like, it sounds good. And I do think, and I'm just saying anecdotally in the little bit I'm on social media, and that, it does seem, I sure see you out there. And
Great,
I don't know if I'm in your target. I don't know if I'm which one I fall into.
Ambitious adventure.
Okay. Thank you.
I appreciate your trust, and I do assure the board that these are ambitious goals. I mean, these are people taking action on our website and driving to our partners' pages. And so we're hoping for 20% more traffic going to our partners' pages. We're hoping for a pretty significant increase in consumers engaging with our ads. So I assure you that they are ambitious.
Yeah, sure.
Mr. Murdoch.
So as the goals, you'll go in and look at them very individually. When you look at what you spend that money on, you'll identify, do we get a report every quarter or so that shows what you're spending and how you're hitting it. I'm not asking,
Yeah.
just an overview, not a, just saying, hey, we spent this much in this quarter, we had this much is business sent back to the hotels or to the select service properties. Is there some kind of measurement there just for, see how we're going along there, so you can correct course or not correct course?
We, as you can imagine, look at it very closely, and we do provide currently on the scorecard in the board packet, some of monthly indicators. And then also, as I presented last month, not to jump ahead here, but the one slide that indicates how many ads are in market, it also indicates how many clicks are going from our website to our partners' pages. And so those are included in your packet and will continue to be provided in the packet on a monthly basis. And I may highlight them some months and I may just leave them in the packet some months, but certainly if you ever have any questions, I am here to answer them.
Thank you.
All right, I will pass it over to Mr. McDonald to talk about our media placement.
Good morning, Ben McDonald for the record. So for goal 3, we're looking at a small shift in what we report as far as a measurable goal. Typically with earned media and public relations in the past, we've been looking at potential reach, which essentially is how many potential consumers you're reaching on a monthly basis. There's a lot of fluctuation as it relates to public relations because it is earned. You can't pay for more of it. It all depends on who you're reaching, how often you're reaching them, and oftentimes how many people you can get in market to experience the destination firsthand is really the way to secure this type of marketing effort and outreach. So we're looking at potentially 215 minimum amount of stories placed that contains positive messaging. Some of the criteria are that these individual writers have to be somebody that we have touched, whether through our own efforts internally or through our public agencies, public relations agencies, currently with Decker Royal Agency, people that we've spoken with and talked to. And it has to contain preferred messaging. The tone has to be positive. So it's not just anywhere that we appear, anywhere on digital media. 215 would potentially represent an increase of about 7 to 10% on what we're projecting as far as placements through the end of this fiscal year, which would roughly be about 200 is what I'm projecting. But a high level of fluctuation there as well. You can see in the notes that the median value from the last 7 years of public relation efforts would be 156 placements. So it really just depends. Sometimes you can bring in one writer, and over the course of the next 6 to 18 months, they'll give you 20, 25 placements. Sometimes you bring somebody in, you spend 2 or 3 days with them, and you don't get anything out of it. So it's definitely something that's not always a given. It takes a lot of effort, but I think we're also going to be reporting more closely and making more efforts locally. And in the past, we have not included any local placements in these numbers. So we'll be tracking that directly. We'll be able to show the difference between how many stories we're placing locally, how many stories we're placing on a national level, but that will all be rolled up into this goal of 215.
Any questions?
Okay,
We're good?
great.
Moving
Thank
on.
you, Christina and Ben. Moving forward to goal number 3, leisure room night goal, Mr. Art Jimenez.
Artie Menace for the record, and this particular goal is for leisure or tourism sales of room nights for fiscal year 25, and is to produce 634,110 cash room nights. These room nights are going to be recorded by 11 hotel properties. Those properties are noted in your packets, and these room nights will be generated through tourism third-party sales channels. I can talk a little bit about who those are. Online travel agencies, your Expedias, Pricelines, so on and so forth. Retail travel agencies, primarily through the GDS systems, global distribution systems, which is primarily corporate travelers, tour operators, receptive operators, wholesalers, etc. The rationale is that we project we're going to have 621,677 room nights in this fiscal year, and that's a really crystal ball projection because we don't have numbers through April, May, and June. And I would like to add one thing. We projected out that it'll be about 25% of the overall room night mix, which is what we've been averaging over the last several years, which is how we got to the 620 number. However, our room nights are coming in lower, so that number is going to we don't know where it's gonna be, okay, for next year. I just want to just point that out. However, we're going with 634,110, which is a 2% increase in the projected of 621,000 room nights. During downturns, hotels rely on third-party channels to mitigate any lower FIT or free independent traveler business and consumed group business, which will increase access to rates and favorable room distribution. Again, we've all talked about this throughout the day, but the reason we're looking at this is that, you know, we've talked with third-party channel companies, the OTAs and wholesalers, or directors of sales at the properties. We have no bowlers next year, the looming recession, election year, so on and so forth. So that's the number we're gonna go with, 634, 310, 110.
Questions for Mr. Jimenez? The only one I had you answered, which was the increase, which is 2%.
2%.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
If I may.
I'm sorry, yes, sorry.
Aren't, on the third parties, aren't you guys at the mercy of us, hoteliers?
So I was gonna, so Mike Larrigan, for the record, I was gonna bring that up at the end after we went through all 7 goals. Is that, you know, in the 7 years plus years I've been with this organization, the majority of these goals that we are presenting today as staff goals and CO goals have never been part of the goal process before. To your point, and Art is very nervous about his goal because we cannot, we as an organization don't control inventory or pricing. But we also have an ability to impact marketing, sales missions, working directly with our stakeholders. And we just feel that it's really important for us to have skin in the game per se and driving towards a number. So
It's more of a, like you said, you can't set a rate, it's not legal, but you can try and get Expedia to do a deal.
Absolutely.
That's really what
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Art. Goal number 4, facility revenues, Renee McGinnis.
All right, so we are giving our revenue goal for the venue sales and events team will be the same goal for Mr. Larragetta in his goals. What we've broken it down, basically our total revenue is $6.4 million. That has been broken down by the different departments in the venue sales and events team. So the sales team, which contracts the events, they're goaled on rental revenue. So the total rental revenue that they will be goaled on is 2.4. That's broken down by all venues except for the livestock. Livestock Event Center has one person that sells and does events, and then a coordinator that assists. So the sales and events manager over at Livestock will be responsible for 1.3 million. The convention center events team is responsible for 1.175 million. And the REC and NBS events team that consists of one manager, one coordinator is responsible for almost 1.1 million. We've added the position of the sponsorship sales manager, who is out selling advertising and sponsorships in all 4 venues. And she has been given a goal of 400,000. So all of that rolls into Mr. Larragetta's goal, and then it's scaled down accordingly. Let me know if you have any questions.
Renee, what is that an increase from the previous year? Do we have a?
Overall, we're down because of bowlers not being here. So it's a 4%, I think, decrease in the overall budget.
Okay. But really because of the bowlers.
Right, that's the heavy.
Just wanted a comparison from the previous year.
And I believe, Madam Chair, that, I don't have this in front of me, but I believe the NBS delta with a bowling, non-bowling year was $5 million.
Okay. Other questions for Renee? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Renee. Goal number 5, community engagement. Mr. Long, this speaks to your comment earlier. So hopefully this will help to that process of what we're trying to achieve as a senior staff. So this goal is to participate in 20 community activities per year, including but not limited to public service, speaking engagements, government affairs, attending and participating in city council meetings, county commission meetings, Spark City Council meetings, engaging in legislative sessions, charitable in-kind contributions, trade show partnerships with charitable organizations, and participate in quarterly stakeholder and community leader meetings. And then what we will do as a senior staff is they will have a portion of this goal individually. We obviously can't all be at every event all the time, but we will divide and conquer. But my goal, as the CEO is 20 activities per year. And this is.
So that's for you.
That's just for me, correct.
Okay.
And obviously the intent here, to Mr. Long's point, is to educate the community the best of our ability about who the RSCVA is, what we do, what our assets are, what our tools are, that we can assist, whether that's businesses or just educating the general community about who the RSCVA is and why we exist.
And we did not have this goal before, so there's not an increase or decrease.
That's correct.
In what this number.
That's correct. And we went back and tried to pull the number of engagements and activities that we've had in the past as an organization. And I think Mara was 7 to 10. So we increased it dramatically because this is a pillar of what I want to achieve, of getting out in the community and being more present and being forward facing. So we were aggressive. That's 1.5 activities per month, which is pretty aggressive.
Yeah, and I appreciate that because I think absolutely that community engagement and really, so people know, first of all, who is RSCVA? You know, it's Reno Tahoe as RSCVA, but really who are we and why does it matter? So why does it matter to our local businesses, to our local residents, how it ties in? I love the Lieutenant Governor's number, I think $4,800 per month taxable difference that nobody would connect those two. Most residents wouldn't think of,
Right.
you know, that made a difference to really their tax base. And so tying those together, but I think just the goodwill of supporting nonprofits, special events, and talking to, coming to council and commission and other meetings so that people know, who we are and what we're doing, I think can only result in really stronger bonds with the community. So I appreciate that tremendously. Any questions from anybody else? Oh, okay.
Okay, moving right along. Goal number 6 is staff retainment, according to Jay.
So post-facilities transition, we are seeing higher staff turnover. Some of this is expected because we have positions at the facilities that are really hard to recruit for and retain. We have a lot of competition with warehouses and similar businesses for those positions. But we really do want to place an emphasis on improving staff retention since turnover has a lot of costs associated with it. We have the time and effort we put into onboarding, training, the loss of productivity as people ramp up in new positions. So as an organization, we wanted to have this goal so we can emphasize to hiring managers the importance of being thorough in their vetting and hiring for positions. And we want this goal to really motivate us to focus on workplace culture too.
Questions, comments? Okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry, real quick, so we have a baseline now, what that number is that we're gonna.
We do, yeah, over the last 2 years, we're gonna see how this year shakes out and then take that average of the last 2 years and improve upon it.
Thank you. Okay, goal number 7, staff surveys. Again, Courtney.
Yeah, so this goal relates to the implementation of a staff survey. We have not done one of these in the past, or at least as long as any of us have been here. We want this to include a component on CEO feedback and also focus on overall workplace culture. We're hoping that this survey gives us a baseline for things to improve upon or work on. It also gives us a baseline for future surveys for the kind of results that we want to see based on this initial survey.
So we're doing this all internally. We talked, I think we chatted a bit about best places to work, like some other groups that do this, that kind of have a thing all set up, but we're doing this internally with them.
Yeah, we are still reviewing options, whether we want to go with our own question bank and really customize it, or if we want to do something like best places to work, but we are vetting our options.
Okay. Okay. Questions, comments?
Madam Chair.
Mr. Murdoch.
Good question. Is this Courtney for everybody?
Yep, it'll be for every single employee.
Thank you.
Okay. That's it.
The goal.
We got through 7 goals. So,
7.
this is not. No.
7 out.
Any final questions, comments, or I'm looking for a motion?
I'll make a I think it's been a great process. This is always tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a challenge every time, but I do think, and I credit you, Mike, and staff and the committee I think I don't know if it's ever just perfect,
It's never perfect.
I know we've talked about this, even when you get into whether it's the leader goals, there's variables, right, that you're not able, and that's life. I mean, that's private sector, same thing. There's things that happen in the industry that we're just not always gonna control. I think we try to be as fair as we can. And with that, I'll make a motion to approve. I want to get the exact wording right. Where am I at? I'll approve the 2024-25 President CEO goals. Item E3.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Esquaga, second by Mr. Murdoch. Any other discussion?
I think it's great. Thank you for the hard work the committee did here. This has been a couple of years process to get these things back in line, and everybody here I know had some input, and I appreciate it. I think it's very fair, and it's got some teeth in it that I think we missed a lot, as we used to call it huff and puff, and this is real. So thank you very much for what you're doing.
And I would agree. And I think what I appreciate about this, because I went through the whole very extended process when we did this before, when I first came on this board, and it just felt like we spent so much time on that. And then, I don't know, it just, what I appreciate most about this is that it's very quantitative. And I think the quantitative, because otherwise it becomes so subjective that Greg might say, no, we didn't, and I might say yes, and you might say, I mean, it's just, the quantitative really takes a lot of the varying opinions and subjectiveness out of it and easy to measure. So and the fact that I appreciate too, that we're putting it out in front and making it not just something that's a given, that there are goals. So yeah, that's easy. We're going to get that we're being aggressive. And I think that's really important, especially as we're looking at planning revenue and not sure, where our forecast financially is. I appreciate that. Yeah, we're really still being aggressive. And I like that a lot.
I'm sure, I think we shouldn't forget that the total number of this is quite a bit less than it's ever been, or has been for a lot of years. So I appreciate that. And you just, I think this document's great.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to item E4. Special event marketing sponsorship funding recommendation on our allocations. And I believe Christina will be doing this.
Absolutely. Christina Ernie for the record. So included in your packets today, it is that time of year where we have identified and are recommending the special event marketing funding allocations for fiscal year 25. This typically comes at the same time as our budget, which is why we're presenting it today. We have outlined all of the events in your packet and the amount that we are recommending to award to them. This year, we had more events apply than ever before at 44 events. And we are happy to be awarding, recommending the allocation of funds to 43 of them, which is incredible news. And just some few main points for considerations. We take into account that they have a strong marketing plan for funding, and that they are taking our monies and potentially doing something new and want to fund something new and achieve a goal. We also look at, do they drive out of market attendance? And do they already receive discounts through our venues? So just to remind everyone, this is a marketing specific program to separate it from some of our other funding programs. And so we really look at what are they doing? What are the events doing with marketing efforts to drive more out of town visitation? So the events who applied are all included in your packet with those amounts awarded to them as recommended by the special events funding panel, which consists of staff on the sales and marketing teams. And I just also want to really commend and applaud Tasha Holloway, who's sitting behind me, who leads this program and goes into really detailed and works side by side with all of our events in the community and does an incredible job through this program. And we are both here to answer any questions, should you have any, but we are looking today for the board's approval of this fund. One more thing before I finish is we also have, as included in this is, it's not the full $500,000. I believe there's about 50 to 60,000 left, which is historically how much we have left in, we call it contingency, but we might use this to award an event that may qualify for funding throughout the year or other marketing opportunities specifically for events throughout the year, if those opportunities don't arise.
Madam Chair, if I could just add a comment to that, just 30 seconds, I promise. Mike Larrigator for the record. I sat through this process with this internal committee for the first time this year. And I can assure you, they look at every single event, every request, they vet it in detail. I think it was a 6-hour process between the 2 days. So I also want to recognize Tasha as the chair of that committee for doing a great job. And it's also her birthday today.
Didn't want to be anywhere else.
Commissioner Hill.
Well, I want to commend Tasha. I've worked with her before on this process and I know how brutal this is and I know how promoters can really be hard on you. So I'm sorry for the abuse that you endure, but it's worth it for the destination. I just want to point out how few legacy events we have left. Did Hot August Nights not apply?
So, get into that, Tasha Holloway, Senior Marketing Events Manager. Hot August Nights and Reno Rodeo are two that we actually don't run through this program because they get discounts through our venues. That's more significant than the funding they would receive here. So those two events you typically won't see in this program.
Yeah, I think it just shows that we're building maybe future legacy events as well, as part of this. So great work.
Mr. Murdock.
As a committee, this is the 101 dumb question, but I gotta ask. It's all tied to room nights, most of it.
They're a consideration. They are one of many considerations, yes.
Ultimately, I get sometimes room nights don't come in the first year of an event or a startup, but you guys know that Hot August Night started like this and then like this. So hopefully you guys, I'm not sure it's in the criteria. Thank you. It's well done.
No, that's a great point,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Murdock, is, we look at that and say, we know who's grown. Part of what we consider, as Christina said, is, are they doing anything new? So a lot of times these guys who are proving that they're bringing in room nights, we want to know that they're trying to continue to expand and to grow their marketing initiatives, which is the purpose of this program. And then we look at some of our new guys coming in and you'll see actually in our emerging events section, we have recommendations for pretty good chunks of money for a lot of these guys to get up off the ground, because we really believe that there's potential there in what we're hearing from our community partners and from staff as well. So.
And it's nice that it's just not all about the casino room nights. It's about we got the select service properties, which Courtney, I'm correct, I hope I say this right, 30% of it is part of our budget. It's right, our revenue. So thank you very much. It's just good stuff.
Tasha, what was, just for sharing with the board, what was the total amount requested?
It was
1.4.
1.1.
Thank you.
Wow.
Yes.
Mr. Squaga.
Just curious, and I don't know, I might have just missed this, but how do you define it? And if an emerging, when does that evolve into an existing, or is that right? Established?
Yes, so emerging is in the first 5 years of existence. Established is 6+, and then our legacies are defined as 10 years plus with a certain amount of room nights or out of market media reach as well, which would be art town versus street vibes. So.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you all, and thank you for all the work. I mean, these are a ton of events, and the fact that we could give something to really everyone almost everybody who applied, and then we still have that contingency fund, I think is important too. But it really is a broad scope of events, and I appreciate that. So good work, good work. Okay, so I am looking for a motion on this event marketing sponsorship. Motion by Commissioner Hill
I'll second.
and a second by Mr. Long to accept the funding recommendation allocations as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, we are on item F1, RSCVA Department updates, Mr. Leggett.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Mike Larragetta. For the record today, just in the essence of time, I'm going to be the only one presenting an update from the senior leadership team. However, I want to note that from a marketing perspective, what Ms. Ernie committed to in providing the board updates, that is in your packet, so that information. And also, what was the other one that's in there? Tourism economics. Mr. McDonald, who is the primary point person for tourism economics, the information from that vendor is also in the packet. Correct. All right, thank you very much. So for today, my update is primarily some housekeeping items, just information for the board. Obviously, every month we recognize an employee who has been awarded the Spotlight Employee of the Month for the month of April. Unfortunately, we were really hoping this individual was going to be here today, but he is working. But so I can read some comments. I think this will represent his accomplishments very well. So good morning. It's my pleasure to announce the April Spotlight Employee of the Month winner. Prior to joining the RSCVA, this staff member was employed in the hospitality industry, working at the Row in human resources, advertising, marketing, and housekeeping. In addition to working in the hospitality industry, this individual just celebrated their 10-year work anniversary at the University of Nevada, Reno Fitness and Recreation Service Department as a group fitness instructor with disciplines in Zumba, cycle, and group training. This individual has been employed at the RSCVA for nearly 2.5 years, joining the organization on January 24th, 2022, and was recently promoted to sales and events specialist. When asked what your favorite thing is about working at the RSCVA, their response was, "I love Nevada and I have lived in Reno Sparks all my life. Being able to work for an organization that allows me to serve my community and work with like-minded individuals is a dream come true." It's my pleasure to recognize Daniel Marquez as the April Spotlight Employee of the Month recipient.
And he brings more energy than every room, not even teaching Zumba, just walking into a room. So yeah, his energy is contagious.
So,
Congratulations.
yeah, we'll get a picture with Daniel. This is not. Oh, he's got it. Just I'll go ahead and just miss some time. I know everybody's tired to go through, but I just wanted to, it's in your packets. If you could please just review a reminder to the board. We have several in-market events coming up. These are events obviously located in cities where we have remote offices. 3 that are in the near future is we have a baseball game between the San Francisco Giants and the Oakland Athletics, soon to be Las Vegas Athletics. That game is on July 31st in San Francisco. The second one is another baseball game on September 18th between the San Diego Padres and the Houston Astros, hosted by David Diomedes. That will be in San Diego. And the third one, which we just penciled in, is an annual event that has produced ROI on every single event that we've done at the Kansas City Chiefs game on November 4th, hosted by Emily Flynn out of our St. Louis region. And that will be a football game between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Next are trade show calendars on upcoming major events that we feel will be appropriate for board members to attend if available. That is the annual ASAE, which is being held August 10th through the 13th. We will have 4 regional remote directors in attendance. This year is being held in Cleveland, Ohio, October 7 through 10, IMAX America. Pretty much the entire team will be participating on the MNC side. We have made a decision through our support of our stakeholders of not exhibiting this year at IMAX, but we are doing a client event right there on campus at Mandalay Bay at Libertine Social. We're anticipating 150 clients. So if there's an opportunity for a board member to fly down and attend the event, we would appreciate that. And the third and final event that we're presenting today is Holiday Showcase, which is no better place to be in December than Chicago, Illinois, on December 4th and 5th, where we will have a trade show booth and we will also do a small community event. The other reminder I wanted to share with the board is we'll be hosting our first community stakeholder engagement meeting. This is a quarterly meeting where we reach out to members of the community and stakeholders, and we would love members of the board to attend without, of course, establishing a quorum. Mr. Kennedy, we'll make sure we don't do that. But this will be us providing the opportunity to once again share, educate, and advise community leaders and stakeholders about what assets and tools we can provide from the RSCVA. We hope that this is successful. We hope it's well attended, and we will rotate this meeting throughout our facilities on a quarterly basis.
What time is that on the 24th?
At 9 a.m.
Thank you.
Next, just wanted to recognize the team. We purchased the table this year at the Nevada Women's Fund Luncheon. We intend on getting more engaged and increasing our participation in future years. I was not aware, to be honest with you, that we did not recognize an individual employee from the RSCVA. So we will be doing that next year, but we had a great time and we had a great turnout. So thank you for everybody that attended. And then I believe my final slide is I wanted to make sure that we invited all of the board. We are having twice a year. We do an all-team outing. Obviously, one is around the holidays with our holiday party. And this is the one towards the end of our fiscal year in the summer. So we are all meeting at Boondock Spot Sheet at the Renaissance. Will take place on Tuesday, June 18th from 4 to 7 p.m. We have done a complete buyout of the facility. We're allowing an employee to bring their significant other plus their dependents. All of the senior staff will be there, and we would love for the board to attend if possible. And that will be from 4 to 7 p.m. again on June 18th. Food, beverage, unlimited games. We have also secured anyone that wants to attend and go over across the street to visit the Auto Museum. They are going to bill us on consumption only. So it's really great. It's going to be a great evening for everybody. That concludes my update, Madam Chair.
Okay. Wow, fast and furious. That was awesome. Okay, I'll close item Z, moving. No, now I'm moving to G. Crossed out too many. Board member announcements, reports, and updates. I do have an update from Mr. J, who is climbing mountains right now, Machu Picchu. So I do have his update. FAA reauthorization. Last week, President Biden signed the FAA reauthorization. This was a win for airports on several levels, including the ability for Congress to provide more funding for airport infrastructure. Air service, since we met last, Alaska Airlines announced service between Reno and LAX starting in October, as did Spirit, whose service will start in August. Remember, our nonstops to Atlanta, O'Hare, and Midway begin in June. We're expecting a busy Memorial Day weekend, which we just had, with over 14,500 daily passengers traveling through the airport. And I think I heard that Thursday broke all records, not Friday, because I ran into somebody with the airport that was telling me, yeah, that Thursday was one of their biggest days, which was kind of crazy. Commercial, Stellar Aviation had a grand opening of its new facility, a general aviation improvement at RNO. Construction of the Airway Commerce Center to the south of the airport is coming along. They'll be likely having a grand opening of their own in the next month, June 13th. And it's gratifying to see both these improvements on or near the airport come to life. Mr. Richard J. Any other board member announcements?
One more comment, if I would, Madam Chair, I forgot. I just wanted to thank, get my clerk again with the record. I wanted to thank Mr. Esquada, Mr. Murdoch, and Mr. East for recommending and allowing me to present to the Nevada Resort Association on Tuesday. It was great. I wish they wouldn't have held it the day after a holiday, but it was great. Thank you.
Okay, closing item G now. Moving on to H, comments by the public.
No public comment at this time.
Seeing no public comments, my favorite motion, we are adjourned.